Chapter 1190. Wedding Ceremony. There was a large red sedan parked outside the Gu residence. Gu Xiaoxi had rented it. He didn't have the ability to buy it, but he still wanted to give Chang Yaya the best. Many people were looking at them. A lot of young wives were envious. When Lan Huater got married, she had a bridal sedan chair too. This was the second one in Yongfu village. The bridal sedan was much better than an ox cart or a donkey cart. For people lifted the bridal sedan and followed behind Gu Xiaoxi, who was riding a horse. They circled the Yongfu village and finally stopped outside his new house. Gu Dafeng had already arrived at the new house. She welcomed the guests warmly. Gu Xiaoxi didn't know many people, so he didn't invite many guests. Besides the Gu family, the Bian family and the Xiao family, there were also Dong Xiaolin's family, the village head's family, and the highly respected sixth grandfather. Finally, there were the people who helped them to build his house and their families. The courtyard was filled to the brim. There were around 5 to 6 tables. Gu Xiaoxi and Chang Yaya were already extremely satisfied. The bride was brought in. Gu Dajiang was the eldest brother and the host of this wedding. Gu Dajiang felt comforted when he saw the two of them stepping through the door. Little Six had finally grown up. He had a family of his own. The two of them stood in the central room. The male helper sang and the newlywed started the ceremony. One bow to heaven and earth. Second bow to the parents. Third bow to each other. Their parents weren't around, so Gu Xiaoxi and Chang Yaya bowed in the direction outside the door and completed the ceremony. They were finally sent into the bridal chamber. After some time, Gu Xiaoxi was pulled out to drink with them again. Gu Yundong secretly carried the bowl of noodles into the new room. Chang Yaya's veil was lifted, and she was sitting upright with a tinge of red on her face. When she saw Gu Yundong walking in, she hurriedly stood up. Yundong. Auntie, have a seat first. She placed the bowl and chopsticks on the table. You're pregnant. You haven't eaten for a day, right? Uncle asked me to bring you some noodles. Eat them first. Chang Yaya nodded. She sat in front of the table and took a few bites. Then she smiled. You brought it yourself, right? I know your uncle. Although he knows how to take care of me, he's very careless. Everything was so noisy today that he felt dizzy. He can't possibly think of sending me noodles. Gu Yundong sat opposite her and smiled. Who says that? Uncle might be dizzy today, but he reminded me repeatedly yesterday that my mission today is to look after you and take good care of you. Isn't it my uncle's order for me to send you noodles? Chang Yaya laughed because of her. However, she felt sweet in her heart. Now she had fallen into the lap of fortune. Gu Yundong accompanied her and chatted with her. She only helped her to the bed after she finished her noodles. I don't know when my uncle will come back. You can sleep first. I'll ask Shuetao to guard outside. Don't worry, they won't dare to tease the bride today. Xiao Qingyuan wouldn't. Lu Wei knew Chang Yaya's situation, and the other people weren't close to Gu Xiaoxi. Hence, Chang Yaya could rest properly. Gu Yundong covered her with the blanket before leaving the room. She carried the bowl and chopsticks to the kitchen. A lady who was helping in the kitchen pulled her back immediately. Hey Yundong, don't leave yet. Come over, and let me ask you something. Source. Com, updated by Novlove. Com if you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1191. August. Gu Yundong was stunned. What is it? The lady was curious. Didn't you say that you will get married on the same day as your uncle? Why is your uncle's wedding so early? This lady didn't have any evil intentions. She was just a little curious and gossiping. Gu Yundong thought to herself, this is a good chance for me to get her name registered. I don't want other people to make guesses. Many people were talking about it when they stood at the entrance of the Gu residence today. Hence, she said to the lady patiently, at first, we wanted to get married together, but one of my father's masters said that this isn't appropriate. There's no reason for an uncle and a niece to get married on the same day. No matter how I look, I have to let my uncle get married first. As a result, we can only go our separate ways. As she spoke, she said regretfully. After that, we started calculating the days. This is the best day before August, so we were in a hurry. Fortunately, everything is in place, the house is built, and the gifts are all ready. The lady nodded fervently. That's right. I've already said that it's hard for uncle and niece to get married on the same day. However, today is a good day. There's a couple getting married in the neighboring village. Yundong smiled. That's right. Thank you for your hard work today. You can continue your work first. When you go back later, come to the central room to get some gifts. Sure, okay. Yundong walked out of the kitchen and heaved a sigh of relief. The courtyard was still very lively. With Lu Wei around, no matter how cold the atmosphere was, it would be lively. Yundong couldn't bear with it anymore when she saw Xiaoxi getting forced to drink. She asked Xiaoqingyuan to pull Lu Wei out. Little aunt is pregnant. What if little uncle is unconscious from the alcohol and hurts her accidentally? Xiaoqingyuan felt that it made sense. He went forward and pulled Lu Wei to the side. This fellow wasn't happy. After getting glared at by Yundong, he finally understood. He immediately dashed towards the crowd that was still persuading him to drink. He shielded Xiaoxi and said, All right, it's already so late. Let's not disturb their bridal chamber. We're not drinking anymore. Lu Wei was the eldest young master of the Lu family in the city. Naturally, the villagers felt respect towards him. Earlier, Lu Wei was the one who persuaded him to drink. Now that he had given up, the other villagers stopped fooling around. Xiaoxi let out a long sigh. Xiaoqingyuan helped him back to his room. The remaining people continued eating and drinking. They only dispersed after a long time. Yundong and Xiaoqingyuan were the last to leave the new home. It was already dark outside. Xiaoqingyuan held her hand and suddenly said, 2 more months. 2 months later, it was their wedding day. It wasn't long, but Xiaoqingyuan felt that it was as long as 2 years. Yundong looked up at the night sky and smiled. Think about how many red packets you should prepare on the day of the wedding. Xiaoqingyuan turned his head. You're gloating. For the next few days, Yundong stayed in Yongfu village. After Xiaoxi's house was built, it was time for the Bian family's house. Xiaoxi and Chang Yaya came back to the Gu residence. They could recuperate in peace. After the Bian family's house was built, they started building the workshop. Many villagers guessed that the Gu family was going to hire more long-term workers when they saw this. The nearby villagers started running around to spread the news. After a busy period of time, the hot August finally arrived. Source: Com, updated by Novlove. Com if you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1192. Court examination. August was destined to be a busy and fulfilling month for the Gu family. At the start of the month, it was time for Gu Dajiang to participate in the court examination. Once he passed the exam, he would become an official elementary scholar. When he entered the exam venue, Gu Yundong and the others still went to the prefectural city. There were 2 rounds of the court examination, including the formal exam and the second exam. Each exam lasted an entire day. It wasn't difficult. Gu Dajiang entered the exam venue confidently. When he came out, he was full of smiles too. It looked like there wouldn't be a problem. This matter was over after the exam. He just needed to wait for the results to come out. Gu Dajiang asked Gu Yundong to go back to Yongfu village. The construction of the new workshop had been completed not long ago, and the workers had been hired. There were many people. After all, they weren't just needed in the new workshop. They also needed to buy goods and plant fruits. 2 months ago, after Xiaoxi got married, he bought 3 acres of land. He said that he didn't know how to do business and didn't have any skills. The only thing he was good at was farming. Gu Yundong didn't stop him. Her uncle had his own choice, even though she had once suggested that he work in the workshop. At that time, Gu Yundong also bought a large piece of land from a nearby village to grow sugarcane. Hence, there were at least 200 to 300 people under Gu Yundong's command. There were many things to settle, and it was much more complicated. Besides promoting a few capable people to be managers, she also needed to recruit knowledgeable people. Thus, Gu Yundong brought little Kiki back to Yongfu village first. Unexpectedly, the moment she reached home, Chunliang came over. There was excitement in his eyes as he looked at her. Yundong, your father has completed the court examination, right? How's his result? Did he pass? Gu Yundong was caught between laughter and tears. Uncle Chun, he just left the exam venue yesterday. His results will only be out in 5 to 6 days. How can it be so fast? Another 5 to 6 days? Chun Liang was a little disappointed. Madame Zhou, who came with him, rolled her eyes uncontrollably. I think your Uncle Chun is even more nervous than your father. He hasn't slept properly for the past 2 days. He keeps tossing and turning at night, as if he went to take the elementary scholar exam. What do you know? Under his leadership, Yongfu village was thriving. Everyone's life was getting better and better. No one lacked meat anymore. Now that he had the money, he should look for other things. Yongfu village didn't have a single elementary scholar now. Madame Zhou snorted. Why don't I understand? Think about the ranking of Gu Dajiang in the county exam and the prefecture examination. He's already a confirmed elementary scholar. I don't know why you're panicking. That's different. Different how? Chun Liang couldn't reason with her. He flicked his sleeve and left. Madame Zhou snorted at his back view. Then, she turned and said to Gu Yundong, ignore him. He must be crazy to be the village head. Especially now that his life was good. His 2 sons had work to do and his grandsons were studying in school. There was less work in the field, so he didn't have to worry about anything. All he did was ponder over the matters in the village. Not long ago, he wondered if he should open a private school in the village. Oh right, Yundong, when are you going to buy mooncakes? It's almost the Mid-Autumn Festival, so I want to buy something good this year. I'll go with you. You have good taste, so the mooncakes you buy will be good too. Gu Yundong smiled when she mentioned the Mid-Autumn Festival. I don't plan to buy mooncakes outside. I want to make them myself. However, our workshop is distributing mooncakes. We need to buy those mooncakes in the city. We have already reserved them from a shop. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1193. Making my own mooncakes MS. Zhou was stunned. Do it himself? She was a little intrigued, but she knew that Gu Yundong's cooking skills were good. If she said that she would do it herself, it might be the kind of secret prescription that wasn't available outside. She couldn't just ask for it. Hence she asked, which shop did you reserve from? The Zhang family? The Zhang family? Gu Yundong smiled and shook his head. No, it's not the Zhang family. It's a new shop and isn't famous. However, the pastries they make are delicious. In the past, Tong and specially went to take a look. The place where they make mooncakes is clean too. I tried one. It tastes better than the Zhang family's. I hope that they will have a place in the city in the future. However, Madame Zhou didn't think so. Everyone knew that the Zhang family's business was the most prosperous in Fengkai City. In the past, there were many new shops that made many novel pastries. In the end, the Zhang family bought all the secret recipes. The Zhang family was the largest pastry shop in Fengkai County. However, this was between them. The Zhang family hadn't laid their eyes on the pastry shop, so the price of the pastries there wasn't high. With Gu Yundong's guarantee, Madame Zhou believed that the mooncakes would be delicious. Hence, Madame Zhou nodded quickly. All right, I'll order mooncakes from this shop too. Gu Yundong asked curiously. Chen Jinkai and Chen Jinbao will have mooncakes when the workshop distributes them. Why do you still want to buy mooncakes? Hey, we have many relatives and friends, right? Our family is living a good life now, and we have many guests. We should give them some good treatment, right? She sounded proud. In the past, Madame Zhou was proud too. After all, her husband was the village head, but her family didn't have much money. Now, she could buy anything she wanted. Her sons were promising and filial. She was extremely proud. Gu Yundong smiled. All right, I will ask Tongan to buy more for you. All right, thank you. I'll go back first. Madame Zhou saw that she was tired after coming back, so she went back after a few sentences. On the other hand, Kiki looked at her excitedly. Sister, are we making mooncakes ourselves? That's right. Do you want to learn? Yes. Gu Yundong hurriedly held her chin when she saw her nodding her little head too forcefully. She laughed and said, I knew that you're a foodie. I'll look for you after I have the ingredients. Okay. The young lady grabbed her hand with her soft little hand and walked into the house happily. The next day, Yundong went to buy ingredients. Then she brought Kiki and Shinsitian to the kitchen to get busy. Chang Yaya took a stool and sat at the door to help pick up the green beans. Yundong planned to make ice cream mooncakes. She had prepared the molds. Last year, during the Mid-Autumn Festival, she wasn't at home and the mooncakes weren't made. This year she mustn't miss it. Kiki took the molds and looked at them curiously. She widened her round eyes and asked, Sister, what are these? You will know in a while. Yundong poured a bowl of glutinous rice noodles and said to her, Come, add some water for me. Okay. The young lady hurriedly put down the molds and ran to her side. She grabbed the water ladle and carefully released the water bit by bit. Yundong was extremely patient. She waited for her to take her time. This young lady loved to cook. She might be able to work in this trade in the future. However, she was still young. She would take her time and see if she could find a master chef in the future. After filling the water, the young lady raised her head and smiled at her with her small mouth. Her soft and cute voice melted Yundong's heart instantly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1194. The one in her body is a little brother. Yundong mixed the batter and left it there. Then, she started making the filling. The young lady secretly took some and stuffed one in her mouth. Then, she ran to Chang Yaya's side and stuffed one into her mouth. Little aunt, my younger brother wants to eat. Chang Yaya smiled. The young lady always said that the child in her stomach was a little brother. There was an old saying that children had spiritual power, so they could tell if the child was a boy or a girl. That was why Chang Yaya was happy when the young lady called it little brother. It wasn't that she didn't like girls, but if the firstborn was a boy, it would be much easier for her whether she had boys or girls in the future. At least no one would gossip. Yundong felt that it was hard to say. However, everyone was thinking the same thing now. She couldn't change this deep-rooted thought. Also, Chang Yaya was always elated when she heard Kiki talking about her younger brother. If Yundong stopped her, she might think that there was something wrong with the baby's gender. After all, Chang Yaya's body was weak and her pregnancy wasn't stable. The only thing she could do now was to enlighten her and remind her uncle so that he could express that he liked both boys and girls. Actually, Xiaoxi preferred girls. One could tell it from his attitude towards Kiki. He loved to hug her the moment he came back. Sometimes he even angered the young lady. Yundong glanced at Chang Yaya and noticed that her eyes were indeed smiling. Her mood seemed to have gotten better, so she kept quiet. She turned and continued making mooncakes. In the afternoon, the finished mooncakes filled up the entire central room. The amount she made was a little big. After all, there were many people in the family, so she had to give some to others. Fortunately, she didn't do all the work by herself. Later, Xiaoqing came over, and she passed all the laborious work to him. Yundong didn't feel anything wrong about it. Xiaoqing glanced at her from the corner of his eyes, and started working without any complaints. After they were done, she asked someone to send some mooncakes to the Zhang family, Chunliang's family, and the sixth grandfather's family. As for the Lu family in the county city, as well as the Nye family and the Dai family in the prefecture city, Yundong asked Chen Jinbao to deliver the goods the next day. When Chen Jinbao came back, he didn't just bring return gifts from those families. He also brought the mooncakes she ordered in the city. The people in the workshop got excited when they saw the 2 carts filled with items, especially the workers who were just recruited last month. Their eyes lit up. They had long heard that the Gu family workshop would send gifts every holiday, especially during the New Year. The New Year's goods were even more sumptuous than the ones they bought at home. One look and you could tell that these mooncakes were extraordinary. As expected, Tongan waited for the carriage to go to the Gu residence. Then he entered the workshop and said to everyone, "It's almost the Mid-Autumn Festival. Everyone has been working hard these few days. Hence, the boss has decided to give everyone 2 tubes of mooncakes to bring back to celebrate the reunion with your families." "Oh, The crowd got lively. Every time their boss gave them something, they would feel as if they had hit the jackpot. They were extremely excited. Tong'an smiled and shook his head. He continued. After work in the afternoon, everyone will go to the entrance of the Gu residence and line up to receive the mooncakes. Don't be late. Keep order. Do you hear me? Yes, Manager Tong. Tong'an waved his hand and left. At this moment, there was already a queue at the entrance of the Gu residence. Gu Yundong placed tables and chairs in the front courtyard and asked them to come up one by one to take the mooncakes after registering their names. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1195. He did it. The workers in the workshop had to finish their job first, but the fruit farmers in the garden didn't need to wait. To prevent them from getting crowded with the workers later, Gu Yundong asked Zhou to bring them over first. The experienced fruit farmers were calm, but the newbies were whispering to each other excitedly. However, when they received the mooncakes, their expressions turned strange. They didn't say anything in front of Gu Yundong. They only gathered together and started discussing softly after they walked out of the door. Why haven't I seen such mooncakes before? Aren't they from the Zhang family? No, the Zhang family's mooncakes have different packages. I've never seen them before. The other pastry shops in the city aren't like this either. Really? Did she buy them from the prefectural city? In your dreams. How can they be transported back from the prefectural city? I've asked around. Chen Jinbao and the others came back from the city. Sai, I thought that it was Zhang's mooncakes. I've been waiting for them for a long time. I told my children the same thing. They're waiting for me to bring the mooncakes back, but the Gu family is quite wealthy, right? Why don't they buy Zhang's mooncakes? Or did they hire too many people this time so they bought something cheaper? Zhou came out just in time to hear these words. His face turned black. What nonsense are you spouting? Did the boss give you the wrong mooncakes? Go and ask around. Which boss sends things to you like our boss? You need to be contented. If you don't want them, give them back. There are people who want them. The other people touched their noses in embarrassment. Brother Zhou, we don't have any other intention. We just didn't expect it. Let's not talk anymore. We promised that we won't talk anymore. We know that Boss Gu is great. If not, we wouldn't be trying so hard to come to the Gu family, right? That's right, Brother Zhou. Please don't tell Boss Gu. We're extremely grateful to her. Really? Zhou snorted. After all, those people were fruit farmers working outside. They were different from the long-term workers in the Gu family's workshop. Those people were new and not under Gu Yundong's command. They didn't know Boss Gu's ability and methods, so they didn't have much respect for her. In summary, it was his fault. His son was right. He should have established the authority of the Gu family on the first day those people came. Just as he was thinking about this, he saw Chen Liang suddenly running over furiously. He was already so old, but he was jumping around like a rabbit. When he ran in front of Zhou, he almost tripped over the door and fell to the ground. Zhou hurriedly held her up. Village Chief Chen, why are you in such a hurry? You're already so old. Shouldn't you be more careful? Chen Liang waved his hand and panted heavily. He couldn't even speak. Zhou noticed that he was in a hurry, so he quit warning the fruit farmers and helped Chen Liang into the house. Chen Liang pounced on Gu Yundong when he saw her still registering. Gu Yundong jumped in fright and leaned back abruptly. Fortunately, Xiaoqing Yuan raised his hand and held her up. Gu Yundong patted her chest. Uncle Chen, what's wrong with you? Is there a dog chasing you? The moment she finished speaking, Big Black barked twice in the corner. Gu Yundong laughed uncontrollably. Chen Liang was finally able to catch his breath. His eyes were astonishingly bright, as if he wanted to eat someone alive. He shouted in an unprecedentedly loud voice. He did it. Ha ha ha, he did it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1196. Subsidized elementary scholar. Chen Liang's words were baffling. Whether it was Gu Yundong, Xiaoqing Yuan, or the other fruit farmers who were collecting mooncakes, they all looked at him in confusion. Chen Liang swallowed hard and repeated. Your father has won. He has become an elementary scholar. Gu Yundong's eyes lit up, and she stood up immediately. Really? The rankings are out? Although she knew that her father was definitely fine, Gu Yundong was still extremely excited to hear such accurate news. Chen Liang nodded repeatedly. The result is out. I met the messenger at the entrance of the village just now and they told me the good news. I rushed back to tell you the great news first. Oh right, quickly prepare silver for them. The messenger will be here soon. The onlookers were stunned, but they all understood now. There was an uproar. Is old Master Gu an elementary scholar? This is really a great thing. Congratulations, Boss Gu. By the way, village chief Chen, what rank did Master Gu get? What rank? Chen Liang was stunned for a moment before he smiled awkwardly. I was too excited. When I heard that Brother Dajang had won, I ran back happily. I forgot to ask them. It's fine. We'll know when the messenger comes later. Gu Yundong hurriedly asked Tong An to sit at the table and register the mooncakes while she ran into the house to get the money. However, how could anyone be in the mood now? The queue that was originally well lined up immediately dispersed. Everyone squeezed to the door and looked at the main road anxiously and expectantly. This was a joyous occasion for Yongfu Village. Not to mention Yongfu Village, how long had it been since an elementary scholar appeared in the vicinity? There were only 2 old elementary scholars in the 2 neighboring villages. There were not many scholars left. When Gu Yundong took out the silver, Gu Xiaoxi and the others had already heard the commotion and ran over. They also squeezed to the front of the door excitedly with everyone. Closer, they could see the messengers. Everyone was excited as they stared at the 2 officials who were approaching. The 2 officials who had been walking over happily with the gong stopped in their tracks under such gazes. They held the sabers at their waists worriedly, as if these villagers would pounce on them and beat them up in the next moment. Chen Liang said anxiously, Brothers, this is the Gu family. The Gu Dajang you mentioned is from this family. As he spoke, he turned around and waved at the villagers. Hey, don't block the door. Where's Yundong? Why isn't she here yet? Gu Yundong, who could not squeeze into the front, was speechless. It was too difficult for her. Fortunately, the crowd quickly dispersed from both sides. The 2 officials heaved a sigh of relief. They were holding a post to announce the good news. When they saw Gu Yundong walk out, they asked, Is Gu Dajiang here? Sir, Gu Dajiang is my father. He's waiting for the day of the rankings after the court examination in the prefectural city. He hasn't returned yet. I see. The official almost nodded. Then we'll congratulate Miss Gu here first. Then one of them knocked on the gong and drum in his hand, and the other took 2 steps forward with a report and said loudly with a smile, Congratulations to Master Gu Dajiang of Yongfu Village. You're the 5th elementary scholar in high school. 5th. Gu Yundong's face was filled with joy. With such a high ranking, it meant that he was a subsidized elementary scholar. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1197. Madame Zhou's Exclamation. Thank you for making this trip. Thank you for your hard work. Gu Yundong was overjoyed and hurriedly handed over the pouch in her hand. This is the money for your drinks. Miss Gu is too polite. The 2 of them received the money. They had rushed from the county city to Yongfu village to report the good news. Because of this small amount of money, only they were well informed and knew that the Gu family's conditions were not bad. They would definitely be generously rewarded. The 2 of them touched their pouches and quickly realized that there were a few pieces of silver inside. Compared to some families who offered 10 copper coins to send them away, it was much better. Gu Yundong invited them. Please come in and have a cup of tea to rest. It's quite tiring to come from afar. It's such a hot day. No. We have to return to the county city before the city gate is closed. We'll take our leave. Hearing their words, Gu Yundong could only give up. However, she still asked Tong Shuetao to pour 2 cups of sugar water for them to quench their thirst. At this moment, Xiaoqing Yuan had already brought 2 tubes of mooncakes and 2 cans over. Gu Yundong took them and handed them to the two officials. Then I won't keep you here. It just so happens that today is the time for the Gu family to give everyone the Mid-Autumn Festival gifts. Bring the mooncakes and canned food back too. May joy be with you. The eyes of the two officers lit up. This trip was indeed the right one. They were wondering why there were so many people in the Gu family today. So it was because of the Mid-Autumn Festival. What a generous boss. She even gave gifts during the Mid-Autumn Festival. The two of them said, "Boss Gu, you're too polite." They took the gifts. In the end they even said sweetly, "Master Gu is a great talent and Boss Gu knows how to do business. In the future, the Gu family will be amazing. Let us congratulate Miss Gu first." Thank you, thank you. Then we'll take our leave. Boss Gu, continue with your work. There's no need to send us off. With money and gifts, the two of them were overjoyed, and their smiles lingered for a long time. After the two officials left, the villagers present turned their heads to congratulate Gu Yundong. I knew Brother Dajiang wouldn't be bad. He's ranked 5th. He's too amazing. That's right. I heard that this is Brother Dajiang's first time participating in the imperial examination. He's already a subsidized elementary scholar. Our village also has an elementary scholar. Ha 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 ha. Everyone was extremely excited, and Chen Liang heaved a sigh of relief. Someone suggested, "Boss Gu, shouldn't we celebrate such a joyous occasion?" That's right, that's right. Previously, we didn't hold a banquet when he got the county's chief. This time, he has become an elementary scholar. We can't let it go just like that. Even Chen Liang nodded. It should indeed be celebrated. Let everyone know that our Yongfu village has a subsidized elementary scholar. Gu Yundong had no objections to setting up a banquet. However, they had to discuss when and how to do it. Hence, Gu Yundong faced the heated discussion and said, "I'll discuss with my father when he comes back tomorrow. I'll inform everyone then." All right. Everyone continue to line up. Let's distribute the mid-autumn moon food first. Hence, the overly excited fruit farmers all stood back in line. Gu Yundong also turned around and returned to the front yard. She held the good news report in her hand. Gu Xiaoxi wiped his hands on his clothes and said very cautiously and piously, "Yundong, let me take a look." Gu Yundong handed her the good news. Gu Xiaoxi had just taken it when Madame Zhou's exclamation came from outside. "Yundong, something bad has happened. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1198. The Zhang family kicked an iron panel. Gu Yundong was stunned, and Chen Liang frowned. He turned his head and scolded. "Why are you making a fuss? What's not good? Brother Dajiang's good news has just arrived, and you're here to cause trouble? Hey, I'm talking to Yundong." Madame Zhou bypassed Chen Liang and immediately grabbed Gu Yundong's hand. "Yundong, I just returned from the county city. Do you know what happened in the county city?" When Gu Yundong heard her mention the county city, she thought about the time and roughly knew what had happened. However, she still asked in confusion, "What happened in the county?" "It's the Zhang family. Do you know the county city's Zhang family?" Madame Zhou went to the county city with her daughter-in-law early in the morning to visit her son, Chen Jinkai. After all, he had been busy for a few days and had not returned. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law were going to make him a delicious meal to nourish him. However, just as they finished lunch, something big happened in the county. Gu Yundong was relatively calm, but the others present could not remain calm. They hurriedly asked, "The Zhang family? Is it the Zhang family who sells pastries? What happened to the family?" "That's right. Sister-in-law Zhou, tell me quickly. What exactly makes you so anxious?" Madame Zhou slowly exhaled, her eyes bright as she finally said, "If I tell you, don't be too surprised. The Zhang family I was talking about is indeed the Zhang family that sells pastries. Speaking of which, their family is considered a big family in our county. Those pastries are famous in the county, but do you know where they got those novel pastries? Didn't they say that the Zhang family is generous and bought all the new and delicious pastry recipes from other families?" Madame Zhou slapped her thigh. "What? How were they bought?" "They were simply snatched." As she spoke, She began to get excited. You don't know, but recently, a new pastry shop has opened in the county. The pastries made by that pastry shop are delicious, cheap, and especially novel. By the way, the mooncakes that Boss Gu is distributing now were bought from this pastry shop. Everyone was stunned and looked down at the mooncakes in their hands. Madame Zhou continued, Boss Gu has good taste. Back then, she saw that the mooncakes in this shop were better than the Zhang family's, so she made a reservation. Unexpectedly, when the Zhang family saw that the business of this shop was good and there were many people buying it, they had an idea and wanted the secret pastry recipe of this shop. When others buy secret recipes, they have to at least offer a suitable price and both sides have to be willing. However, the Zhang family doesn't think so. The Zhang family can let you open a shop in the county city, but the business of the pastry shop can't be better than theirs. Otherwise, they will be going against the new arrivals. They want the secret recipe of this shop, but they don't have any sincerity at all. They threw 10 taels of silver to buy the secret recipe of others. Tell me, is this humane? 10 taels of silver? Everyone was in an uproar. They looked at the mooncakes in their hands. Just the number of mooncakes that the Gu family had ordered was worth 10 taels, right? Moreover, there were others. The Zhang family was dreaming. The owner of the shop didn't agree either. The Zhang family was angry, so they found some thugs to cause trouble. They started to threaten and tempt the owner of the shop. Unfortunately, they kicked an iron plate this time. What iron plate? Madame Zhou was smug. She snorted and said, although this shop is not famous or eye-catching, you definitely won't be able to guess who the owner behind this shop is. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1199. Vomited who? Madame Zhou said mysteriously, the owner of this shop is from the capital. His family is this. She gave a thumbs up, and everyone was instantly enlightened. His family had a high-ranking official? No wonder. The Zhang family had indeed kicked an iron plate. Gu Yundong knew this better than Madame Zhou. This shop had just been opened not long ago, and the owner was invited over by Qin Wenzheng. They had indeed opened a pastry shop in the capital. Not only the capital, but there were also other places. On the other hand, Xuanhe Prefecture had yet to open a branch. Logically speaking, if they wanted to open a shop here, they would definitely choose Xuanhe Prefecture. However, the owner of this shop had some ties with Qin Wenzheng. Qin Wenzheng asked them to come over and help him. He directly opened a shop in Fengkai County first. It would be convenient to open it in Xuanhe Prefecture in the future. The other party's request was for Gu Yundong to supply them with white sugar. It wasn't just the white sugar needed for the pastries in Fengkai County, but also white sugar from the other 3 branches in the capital. Although they could also buy it in the capital, there were many high-ranking officials in the capital. The supply of white sugar could not meet the demand. Their demand for pastries was huge, so they could not snatch enough. Gu Yundong agreed without thinking. She had just built a new workshop and the production of white sugar had greatly increased. It was not a problem to supply them. Moreover, the price offered by the other party was not low. It could be said that this was a situation where all 3 sides won. Hence, the pastry shop opened in a low-key and luxurious manner. At first, the Zhang family didn't take it seriously. However, when the Mid-Autumn Festival arrived, this pastry shop suddenly became popular. Therefore, the Zhang family began to panic. Do you think it's possible for the Zhang family to deal with the owner of this shop? Madame Zhou's voice pulled her back to her senses. Gu Yundong also listened. Madame Zhou said, as soon as the Zhang family threatened them, the owner of the shop knew and immediately took down the Zhang family. Not only that, but they also reported it to the officials. In 2 days, they found out a lot of dirty things about the Zhang family. It turns out that the Zhang family's secret recipes were snatched from others like this in the past. Some people were unwilling to give it away, so the Zhang family directly hurt them. As she spoke, Madame Zhou's voice suddenly lowered. I heard from someone on the street that 2 families were poor and set up a stall on the road to sell the pastries they made. In the end, the Zhang family took a fancy to them. Not only did the Zhang family destroy their stall, but they also snatched their secret recipes. In the end, they killed them to silence them. Wow, Everyone exclaimed, "Really?" Madame Zhou waved her hand. "I heard it on the streets. How would I know if it's true? But I think it's most likely true. Otherwise, why would the government go and arrest the Zhang family?" "The Zhang family has been arrested?" "That's not all. I heard that those officials went to the Zhang family's bakery to make pastries. That bakery was extremely dirty. There were many flies and insects crawling on the pastries. It was disgusting. There was dirty and rancid water in the corner that could not be smelled. There were also people working in the workshop whose fingers were dirty. An official had just bought the Zhang family's pastries 2 days ago. When he saw this scene, he vomited. Ugh. Someone beside him couldn't help but retch. The expressions of the fruit farmers who were complaining about Gu Yundong not buying the Zhang family's mooncakes changed, and they almost could not stand still. After a while, they rejoiced in their hearts. Fortunately, their boss was wise and decisive to buy this shop with a strong backer. Otherwise, they would vomit after eating the Zhang family's mooncakes. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1200. The end of the Zhang family. They were not the only ones. There were also many fruit farmers who had doubts in their hearts. Now they admired Gu Yundong even more. Just now, Madame Zhou had said that the mooncakes in their hands were personally tried by the boss and tasted better than the Zhang family's. Speaking of which, they had profited. Someone wanted to know what happened next and quickly asked Madame Zhou. "What happened after that?" Madame Zhou shrugged. Later, I came back." "Then, you don't know anything about the Zhang family's ending?" "How would I know about the Zhang family's ending? I heard it from the people on the street. I asked around. As for the rest, it was the government's business. What did it have to do with her?" Everyone was a little disappointed when they heard that. However, the discussions continued. Tong'an called for everyone to collect the mooncakes first. Xiao Qingyuan whispered into Gu Yundong's ear. "Xiaowen has been in the county city for the past few days. We'll know when he comes back tonight." Gu Yundong nodded. The Zhang family had to be dealt with. They had helped the Tao family do such a thing, so Wenzheng naturally could not let him off. However, she could not use the excuse that she had colluded with the Tao family as an excuse, so she started with the pastries. In the past 2 months, Wenzheng had long figured out the Zhang family's background. He knew about the dirty things they had done, so he would definitely hit them in one blow and not leave a way out for the Zhang family. Once the Zhang family was finished, the Tao family would take action. After the mooncakes were distributed, the workers in the workshop went back. However, Yongfu village was extremely lively that day. Firstly, the Gu family had given out the Mid-Autumn Festival gifts. Secondly, Gu Dajiang had become an elementary scholar. Thirdly, something big had happened to the Zhang family. Each of these 3 things was enough to make people talk about it. On the Gu family's side, they had a happy dinner. Then Gu Xiaoxi pasted the good news report with Gu Dajiang's status as an elementary scholar written on it in the middle of the central room. Gu Yundong was speechless. Only then did she know that nowadays, everyone acted like they were given prizes as students. They would post the good news in the most conspicuous place in the hall. Firstly, it could bring honor to their ancestors, and secondly, it could be seen by visiting guests. It could be seen how much everyone valued the imperial examination. Gu Xiaoxi asked everyone if it was in the right position. The people below were all looking into it. It was Gu Yundong who said, "Uncle, this is the good news of the elementary scholar. If you want to paste it in the middle, where do you plan to paste the good news reports of the high scholar and honorable scholar in the future?" "High scholar? Honorable scholar? Yes. His elder brother was very good at studying and definitely wouldn't just be an elementary scholar. He had to be more farsighted. How could he be like a kid who had never seen the world?" Gu Xiaoxi coughed lightly. "Then how about this? Well, stick it to the left side." He gestured and asked Gu Yundong, "This position is conspicuous enough. We've also made room for the good news reports to come." Gu Yundong nodded and Gu Xiaoxi pasted it. Xiaowen came back at this critical juncture. Gu Yundong was very concerned about the Zhang family's fate, and immediately turned around to gather information. She did not even hear Gu Xiaoxi calling her from behind. Xiaowen was already reporting to Xiao Qingyuan. He stopped when he saw Gu Yundong coming over. How is it? How's the Zhang family? Xiaowen said. The Zhang family disregarded human lives. The government found out that they killed 3 people for their own selfish gains. Moreover, in order to expand their business, they used improper methods to harm many poor commoners and legitimate businessmen. There was even a huge danger to the Zhang family's workshop that threatened the health of the entire county. Therefore, old Master Zhang and his son, who had human lives in their hands, were sentenced to be beheaded and their wives were to be exiled. What about Zhang Jiao and Lu Wei's marriage? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1201. Madame Tan is pregnant? If the Zhang family was dealt with, it was very likely that Zhang Jiao would implicate the Lu family to prevent herself from being convicted. As expected, Xiaowen said, Zhang Jiao said that she's the daughter-in-law of the Lu family, and that she's not a member of the Zhang family. She doesn't admit to these crimes of the Zhang family. She wants the Lu family to save her and marry Lu Wei as soon as possible. Gu Yundong almost choked on her saliva. This shameless woman. But she didn't know that old Master Lu made a deal with old Master Zhang in advance. Xiaowen said. Gu Yundong's interest was piqued. What deal? When the Zhang family was convicted, old Master Lu told old Master Zhang that as long as Zhang Jiao and Lu Wei's marriage was annulled, he would protect Zhang Hao's wife and the child in her stomach, allowing the Zhang family to leave behind a bloodline. Otherwise, Zhang Hao's wife would also be exiled. One could imagine what would happen on the way of exile. Old Master Zhang agreed. He did not expect his weak daughter-in-law, Madame Tan, to suddenly feel unwell when she was locked in the cell to wait for the verdict. A doctor came and diagnosed her with a pregnancy. This was a huge surprise to him. Therefore, be it old Master Zhang, Madame Zhang, or Zhang Hao, the 3 of them tried their best to protect the child in Madame Tan's belly. However, after the Zhang family's accident, the people who were on good terms with them in the past turned a blind eye to them. Old Master Zhang had no choice but to target the Tao family. However, although he was helping Master Tao, he did not know why Master Tao wanted so much food. He had no evidence. Moreover, Master Tao had sent someone to secretly tell them that as long as they did not speak nonsense, someone would take care of Madame Zhang and the others who had been exiled. Otherwise, not only would they die, but the rest of the Zhang family would also die. Old Master Zhang believed it, so he did not dare to reveal anything wrong with the Tao family. He knew very well that even if he did, he would not be able to bring down the Tao family. But now, he did not let the Tao family save the father and son. He only wanted to protect Madame Tan and the child in her belly. Perhaps it was feasible? Just as he was thinking this, old Master Lu appeared. Old Master Liu's conditions were simple. After canceling Lu Wei and Zhang Jiao's engagement, he would buy a courtyard in the county city for Madame Tan to give birth. He would also find a doctor to nurse her body and let her give birth smoothly. Old Master Zhang thought for a moment and agreed. The Lu family had connections in the capital, so the possibility of rescuing Madame Tan was higher. In addition, with his understanding of the 2 old masters, old Master Lu was even more trustworthy. He would definitely do what he said. It was just an annulment. Zhang Jiao was not her daughter anyway, so Madame Tan was naturally more important. Therefore, when Zhang Jiao said that she was engaged to Lu Wei, the 3 members of the Zhang family unanimously denied it, including Zhang Hao. Zhang Jiao was furious and said that she was not the Zhang family's daughter at all. Old Master Zhang immediately said bitterly that she had lost her mind. Zhang Jiao revealed her affair with Zhang Hao. Zhang Hao denied it, and Madame Zhang even slapped her a few times. Zhang Jiao accused the Zhang family crazily, but no one believed her words. They felt that her crazy words were ridiculous. They also did not believe that she was getting married to young Master Lu. Gu Yundong did not expect this. Indeed, old Master Lu did not let Zhang Jiao slander him. Nevertheless, is Madame Tan really pregnant? Xiaowen smiled meaningfully. What do you think, miss? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1202. The ending is perfect. Naturally, she was not pregnant. Madame Tan's hatred for the Zhang family did not decrease at all. Not long after she married into the Zhang family, she discovered the adultery between Zhang Hao and his sister. Her body became so weak that she could not get up from the bed. It was also Zhang Jiao who drugged her, almost causing her to die. However, the Zhang family turned a blind eye to Zhang Jiao's actions. Zhang Hao defended Zhang Jiao and scolded her for making a mountain out of a molehill, causing no peace in the residence and ruining Zhang Jiao's reputation. Madame Zhang was also on her side. She kept saying that Zhang Jiao was young and insensible and did not know her limits. She would slowly teach her in the future. As her sister-in-law, Madame Tan should be magnanimous and not argue with her. Everyone was family. Although old Master Zhang reprimanded Zhang Jiao for hitting her, that was all. Later, he found a good husband for her, Lu Wei, the young master of the Lu family. Why? Why should a family like the Lu family marry a vicious woman like Zhang Jiao? At that moment, Madame Tan knew that she had fallen into a fire pit by marrying into the Zhang family. She hated the Zhang family and wished that everyone in the Zhang family would not have a good ending. Therefore, when old Master Lu was asking about the Zhang family, she secretly sent him news and told him all the dirty things about the Zhang family. Although she could not accuse Zhang Jiao on the spot as a witness, old Master Lu knew the truth and would definitely not let Zhang Jiao enter the Lu family. Moreover, old Master Lu was a grateful person. He knew that she had been sick in bed for a long time and helped her find a doctor from the prefectural city with good medical skills. Only then did Madame Tan know that the person who had been healing her was actually Zhang Jiao's subordinate. However, the others in the Zhang family also knew about this. They seemed to have tacitly agreed that Madame Tan should slowly die of illness. After all, she knew such an unbearable thing. Madame Tan's hatred and anger reached the peak. She wanted everyone in the Zhang family to die a horrible death. Madame Tan had contributed greatly to Qin Wenzheng being able to find the evidence of the Zhang family's crimes so quickly. As Zhang Hao's wife, it was much easier for her to know some things. In that case, she would be the hero. Qin Wenzheng had originally wanted to protect her. It was just perfect to use this matter to get the Zhang family to agree to annul Lu Wei and Zhang Jiao's marriage. The Zhang family would have to thank the Lu family for this. Wouldn't it be killing two birds with one stone? Madame Tan was not pregnant. She was just using this matter to get herself out of trouble. She asked Zhang Hao for a divorce letter. For the only bloodline of the Zhang family, Zhang Hao agreed to divorce her on the spot. As for how Madame Tan would live in the future, she had already made arrangements. She did not have to worry. Gu Yundong nodded repeatedly. The ending is considered perfect. Xiaowen was extremely excited. Wasn't that so? Master Qin was really a talent. By the way, Master Qin said that we have to deal with the Tao family next. How do we deal with them? Using the Tao brothers, Tao Feng and Tao Yan, Xiaowen said. Master Qin said that we can't let the people behind the Tao family know that we have already investigated the Tao family, so we might as well let people think that the Tao family has internal strife and cause the Tao family to change owners. If Master Tao and Tao Xing are harmed, we might be able to lure out the people behind them. Gu Yundong looked up and exchanged glances with Xiao Qingyuan. This thought was exactly what they had thought back then. Qin Wenzheng should know how to operate it. He had also discussed it with Tao Feng and Tao Yan. This was good too. Tao Feng and his brother were having a hard time in the Tao family now, so they probably did not mind Qin Wenzheng's actions. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1203, Mid-Autumn Festival Reunion. But Gu Yundong was not in the mood to pay attention to these things. The next day, Gu Dajiang returned with Madame Yang and Bian Han. Anke came back with them. She planned to stay until Gu Yundong was married before going back. As soon as Gu Dajiang arrived home, Chun Liang and many villagers came to congratulate him. Not only that, but the county also sent over reward money and praised Gu Dajiang. After this commotion, the villagers asked about the celebration. Gu Dajiang had thought about this before. At the end of the month it will be Yundong and Qing Yuan's wedding. I think we can just hold a banquet together. This? Chun Liang did not expect him to have such a plan, and was a little surprised. Brother Chen, I'm only an elementary scholar after all. I shouldn't make a big fuss. Moreover, if I stage one now and another at the end of the month, not only will everybody be tired, I will also be criticized by many people. Chen Liang thought about it and felt that it made sense. You're the most considerate. On the other hand, many villagers were a little disappointed. Sigh, I thought I could have 2 wedding banquets. Why is Gu Dajiang so petty? It was said that the son of a family in town had also become an elementary scholar, and his ranking was not very high. His family even planned to hold a banquet for 3 days. Gu Dajiang was even a subsidized elementary scholar. Why was he so stingy? Still keeping a low profile? He had already passed the elementary scholar examination. Shouldn't he publicize it everywhere? What was there to hide? If it were them, they would have played gongs and drums and wished they could tell everyone. However, everyone could only think about it in their hearts. After congratulating him, they left. Chen Liang shook his head when he saw this. These people only wanted to eat. After everyone left, Gu Dajiang heaved a sigh of relief and entered the central room. Just as he sat down, Kiki came in with a plate of food. What's this? Mooncakes, the little girl said proudly. Big sister and I made them together. They're delicious. I ate 3 today. Gu Dajiang frowned and looked at the large mooncake in his hand. He said, You ate 3 of them? Won't your stomach be bloated? What if you suffer from indigestion? Gu Yundong laughed uncontrollably at the side. Father, she cut a mooncake into 3 pieces and ate them as 3. Gu Dajiang was speechless. He was getting old and didn't understand what children were thinking these days. On the other hand, Madame Yang hugged the little girl in surprise and said, Kiki is so awesome and smart. Then I'll cut it into 3 pieces too. This way it's equivalent to me eating 3. The little girl held her face with her chubby hands and looked shy. Mother, don't praise me like that. Although I know I'm very smart, you have to be more tactful next time. Okay. Madame Yang immediately nodded. Kiki, everyone says you're so smart. Gu Yundong was about to die of laughter from these 2 people. Mother, is this your way of being tactful? Gu Dajiang shook his head helplessly and looked at the mooncake in his hand. I've never seen such a mooncake before. It looks quite delicious. He took a bite and his eyes lit up slightly. It was indeed not bad. The day after Gu Dajiang returned was the Mid-Autumn Festival. It was rare for the Gu family to be reunited like this. Now it could be considered a true reunion. Therefore, this Mid-Autumn Festival was especially precious and meaningful to the Gu family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1204. Avoid meeting before marriage. Gu Yundong had long prepared mooncakes, pomelo, oranges, glutinous rice round cakes, melons, fruits, hairy beans, wine, and other offerings for the moon. When the moon came out at night, Xiaoqi Yuan moved the huge table to the courtyard. Everyone immediately got busy and placed the offerings on the table. The moon-worshipping ritual also had a process, but the countryside was not so particular. After a small ritual, everyone sat on mats under the moonlight and began to drink and chat. The wine was fruit wine. Gu Yundong even concocted a few drinks for the children to drink. It was rare for the entire family to calm down and chat together. Gu Dafeng was very happy. He took a sip of fruit wine and said, In the past, I was always busy earning money. I never thought that there would be such a day. Gu Yundong turned to look at her. How's eldest aunt's business recently? Speaking of this, Gu Dafeng was even happier. She suddenly clapped her hands and said, Everything's great. There are really many rich families who want slides. My husband took on a lot of work, and even took in a disciple. Gu Yundong was surprised. Disciple? Bianhan waved his hand. What disciple? It's that little 6. Little 6? Gu Yundong thought for a long time, and the corners of her mouth twitched. That local tyrant? Yes, he's probably afraid of you, so he takes good care of our family. The last time I went out, I walked for a long time and was a little uncomfortable. When he saw me, he immediately helped me home. Later, he helped me a few times. He can't be considered my disciple. He just helped me. I paid him some money. One had to know that in this day and age, being someone's disciple meant working for nothing. Then will the local boss agree? Gu Dafeng shook her head. I heard from Little Six that he seems to have fallen out with their boss. Gu Yundong was speechless. All right, they would settle this matter themselves. However, the prosperity of her uncle's business was still worth celebrating. Presumably not long after, their shop would be able to open. Everyone clinked glasses and talked about Gu Xiaoxi. He was quite busy now. Perhaps because he had a family and children, he worked very hard. Seeing that his brother and sister had a promising future, he was anxious too, but he really did not have the ability. Wasn't there an old saying that one should eat as much rice as one could? He felt that farming was not bad. At least for now, he wanted to serve his few acres of land well. Everyone present supported his idea. It was good to be down to earth. With such a calm heart, who would say that she was useless in the future? Gu Dajiang ate a mooncake and narrowed his eyes at the moonlight above his head. He was very satisfied. That night, the Gu family chatted until very late. When Xiao Yuan left, his gaze landed on Gu Yundong for a long time. After tonight, he would not be able to see her again from tomorrow onwards. Yes, eldest Aunt Gu and Aunt Ku said that they should avoid seeing each other before getting married. After the Mid-Autumn Festival, they began to prepare for the wedding banquet. Gu Yundong's wedding gifts were all prepared, and all the specifications were personally monitored by Aunt Ku. The day before the wedding, both the Xiao family and the Gu family's courtyard were filled with all kinds of things. Even the tables and chairs had been borrowed and placed in the corner. The entire Yongfu village could feel the commotion. When Qin Wenzheng arrived, he saw the busy Gu family and the villagers who had come to help. Gu Yundong did not expect Qin Wenzheng to come at this time. What she also did not expect was that he had brought someone with him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1205. The Tao family changed owner. Gu Yundong was stunned. She looked at Qin Wenzheng, and then at the people behind him. The person behind Qin Wenzheng smiled at her and scratched his head. Gu Yundong was familiar with his expression. Sister Gu, so this is your home? It's so big and spectacular. Gu Yundong suddenly came back to her senses. Qin Shu? Why are you here? Qin Shu looked at Qin Wenzheng. Mr. Qin brought me here. He said that you live here, and that you and Brother Xiao are getting married tomorrow, so I wanted to come and take a look. Gu Yundong quickly stepped aside. Come in first. Let's talk inside. Qin Shu let out a sigh and walked inside happily. Along the way, he looked around the Gu family's large house. He was still as curious as the young man who had just walked out of Qinnan village. When he saw Gu Dajiang and the others along the way, he immediately greeted them obediently. The others were also quite curious about Qin Shu. They looked up and sized him up. Qin Shu immediately felt embarrassed. It was not until the three of them reached the study that he slowly exhaled. Gu Yundong poured him a cup of sugar water. Qin Shu took a sip slowly and his eyes widened in joy. It's delicious. Gu Yundong smiled. This is made with white sugar. If you like it, I'll give you a packet later. Qin Shu did not know in the past. Later on, when he was on the mountain, he had more or less heard that white sugar was a precious thing. He immediately shook his head. When he lowered his head to drink tea, he began to take small sips. Gu Yundong laughed and looked up at Qin Wenzheng. Isn't Qin Shu on the mountain? Why did you bring him here? Qin Wenzheng also took a sip of tea. After a moment he said, the Tao family has changed owners. Gu Yundong was stunned. Then her eyes lit up. Tao Feng and Tao Yin pushed Master Tao out. Yes. Qin Wenzheng nodded. My original intention was to use Master Tao's accident to lure out the person behind him. Things were indeed progressing very smoothly. Just as Master Tao was about to be replaced by his two sons, someone helped him from behind. Unfortunately, with me around, Tao Feng and Tao Yin were naturally prepared. Even if Master Tao had someone to help him, he only struggled a little. That person saw that Master Tao was in a hopeless situation, and directly treated him as an abandoned pawn to silence him. Gu Yundong was stunned. Master Tao is dead? Yes, he was poisoned to death. That person was probably angry that Tao Feng and Tao Yin had ruined his plans, and wanted to pin the crime of angering Master Tao to death on the two of them. Therefore, Master Tao vomited blood when he quarreled with Tao Feng and died on the spot. Fortunately, Tao Feng and Tao Yin were prepared. They immediately found a doctor to treat him, and confirmed that Master Tao had been poisoned to death. But who was the murderer? It was still an unsolved case. It was just stored in the government's records. As for Tao Xing, he didn't have much of a future in the first place. He only did this because Master Tao doted on him. Now that Master Tao was dead, old Madame Tao was sick in bed from anger, and Madame Tao had been sent to prison because she had killed the late wife many years ago. Tao Xing did not even have the courage to avenge his parents in the face of the two brothers, who were united and aggressive. Tao Feng sent him straight to the villa, and let him guard a small dilapidated villa for the rest of his life. The Tao family's matter ended, and the mastermind who killed Master Tao fell into Qin Wenzheng's eyes. Qin Wenzheng chased the guy all the way into the mountain. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1206. Qin Wenzheng is leaving. However, that person disappeared after entering the mountain. If not for Qin Shu's help, I'm afraid we would have returned empty-handed this time. As Qin Wenzheng spoke, he looked at Qin Shu, who was eating pastries curiously. The latter immediately retracted his hand, feeling extremely embarrassed. Gu Yundong quickly pushed the plate in front of him. Eat them. I specially brought them over for you to eat. If you refuse them, you won't be treating me as your sister. Qin Shu hurriedly grabbed two and stuffed them into his mouth. Qin Wenzheng laughed and continued. Qin Shu is familiar with the mountains. He also saw that person enter the mountains with his own eyes. There's a stronghold in the mountains. Qin Shu brought our people secretly into the stronghold, and found a secret passage. Through that secret passage we found a mine. Gu Yundong's eyes widened. A mine? It's not a very big mine, Qin Wenzheng said. But that's an iron mine. Those people captured many people to mine for them. The iron ores from the mine are used to forge weapons. The village Qin Shu is in is only the outermost area. The food in the mine was transported through that village. If not for that secret passage, we wouldn't have been able to find that small mine. This was also the reason why Qin Wenzheng didn't take action when he learned about this stronghold from Gu Yundong. Even if they had taken down this small village back then, it would have been useless. There were only about 10 families in the village, and at most, they would have been accused of being bandits. However, in this way they would never be able to find that small mine. At this point, Qin Wenzheng couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. I told you before that I was in Fengkai County to investigate something. Actually, it was for this mine. Back then, someone risked his life to escape from the small mine. Coincidentally, I met him. Unfortunately, that person died before he could say the exact location. He reported this matter to the current emperor, who was still the crown prince at that time. The emperor asked him to find out the location of the mine, so he stayed in Fengkai County as a teacher. Gu Yundong was enlightened. So that was the case. No wonder Qin Wenzheng had asked Xiaoqing Yuan a few times about the Nine Tigers Mountain. No wonder Dai Wenhua had asked Xiaoqing Yuan to bring them deep into the Nine Tigers Mountain in the name of hunting. Unfortunately, the Nine Tigers Mountain was too big, and there were many dangerous beasts inside. It was too difficult to find such a hidden mine. Fortunately, there was a huge breakthrough. However, Qin Wenzheng still sighed. Unfortunately, we've found the mine, but we didn't find the person behind it. We only know that that person is in the capital. Gu Yundong suddenly realized something. Her eyes flickered and she asked in a low voice, "You are going back to the capital?" "Yes." As expected, Gu Yundong felt a little reluctant. Although they usually argued and despised each other, they were already friends. They had worked together more than once or twice. She had helped Qin Wenzheng a few times, and Qin Wenzheng similarly did not treat her as an outsider, and protected her the entire time. But don't worry. Even if I leave, no one will dare to touch your workshops now. Not to mention anything else, the few big families in the county have a good relationship with you. Wasn't that so? There was no need to mention the Lu family. The Prung family also took good care of Gu Yundong. Without Master Tao in charge of the Tao family, They were also very friendly to Gu Yundong. The Zhang family was even directly destroyed. The new pastry shop in the county had already formed a cooperative relationship with Gu Yundong. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1207. Bring Qin Shu along. Speaking of which, Qin Wenzheng had never seen a small workshop with such connections. Moreover, Gu Yundong and Xiaoqing Yuan were not easy to bully. Therefore, there was nothing to worry about when Qin Wenzheng left this time. Gu Yundong sighed inwardly and asked in a low voice, "When are you leaving?" "I will leave after you get married. The emperor has already issued a decree to urge me to return to the capital. As for my students, they are still studying in the school for the time being. Mr. Fan is still around, but the school won't be open at the end of the year. I will arrange for other students to go to Dongyi Academy. I've already spoken to the dean there. As for Yinshu and Yuanji, I still have to ask for your opinions." Yes, this was also a problem. Gu Yundong frowned. "There's no hurry. I'll discuss it with father and the others later." "All right." Qin Wenzheng nodded. He suddenly glanced at Qin Shu and said, "There's one more thing." I plan to bring Qin Shu with me to the capital." Gu Yundong was stunned and turned to look at Qin Shu. Qin Shu was so shocked that he forgot to eat his pastries. His mouth was full and his face was filled with shock. Obviously, he did not know about it before. Seeing that the two people in the study were looking at him, Qin Shu hurriedly wiped the corners of his mouth and swallowed the pastry. He stammered, "Mr. Qin, what did you say? You want to take me to the capital?" Oh my god, that was the capital. Uncle Village Chief had said that it was under the emperor's feet. It was the most prosperous and desirable place in the Dajing country. He had never even been to the county city before. Now he could go to the capital? Qin Shu blinked. After a while, he suddenly shook his head and said, "No, I promised Sister Gu that I would follow her to see the world in the future." Qin Wenzheng looked at Gu Yundong, who was deep in thought. To be honest, with Qin Shu's personality, he was actually not suitable to go to a complicated territory like the capital. Over there, not to mention Qin Shu, even Qin Wenzheng had to be careful not to make a mistake. The people Qin Shu had interacted with in the past were very simple. The most complicated ones were the people in the village. They might have grown a little these days, but the waters in the capital were too deep. However, a person like Qin Wenzheng could learn a lot of skills by his side. It was also a huge benefit to Qin Shu. After a pause, she looked at Qin Shu and asked, "Then do you want to go to the capital? Do you want to stay by Mr. Qin's side?" Qin Shu was stunned. Did he want to? Should he say yes or no? Qin Shu glanced at Qin Wenzheng. Actually, this Mr. Qin was very powerful. Back on the mountain, he had personally seen Mr. Qin calmly commanding others. He had watched as the man faced the leader of the mine with a sword without changing his expression. Mr. Qin seemed to be very powerful, 100 times more powerful than anyone he had ever seen. Qin Shu wanted to follow him. He wanted to learn from him. Alright, Gu Yundong did not need him to answer. Just by looking at his eyes, she could tell what he was thinking. After all, this person really did not know how to hide himself. Alright, then you can follow Mr. Qin. From now on you should learn more and talk less, okay? Watch more, learn more, and speak less. These words would accompany Qin Shu's growth in the future, causing him to be pulled back a few times before making mistakes. Qin Shu nodded vigorously. This matter was settled just like that. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1208. Big Day. Qin Wenzheng told her not to worry. It was not to the extent that he could not even protect Qin Shu. He has made a contribution this time. It's not too much to ask the emperor for a reward. Although Qin Shu has little contact with outsiders, he's sincere. He's actually quite smart. If he's taught well, his future will definitely not be bad. Gu Yundong nodded. Wasn't she thinking the same? However, when he left home, he did not inform the chief of his village. Although I got someone to send a letter to Qinnan village later. It's best for Qin Shu to go back and say goodbye before he goes to the capital, lest they worry. Upon hearing this, Qin Shu immediately stopped drinking tea. He lowered his head slightly and blamed himself. It's all my fault. Qin Wenzheng agreed. After we finish your wedding banquet tomorrow, let him go back. After the matter was settled, Gu Yundong still had things to do. As she spoke, the people outside had already called her several times. Gu Yundong opened the door of the study and got someone to arrange for Qin Shu to stay in the Gu residence for the day. Qin Wenzheng left first. Qin Shu was very happy to be able to stay in Yongfu village for a night. Seeing that the Gu family was busy, he immediately helped. In just one afternoon, he had actually found out a lot of things. Gu Yundong finally understood why Qin Wenzheng had brought Qin Shu along. This person was simply good at gathering information. But Gu Yundong did not have the time to pay attention to Qin Shu. The night before the wedding, Aunt Ke had chased her to bed early to sleep. The next morning, far before dawn, Aunt Ke dug her out again. She sat on the stool in a daze and let someone put makeup on her. Gu Yundong was completely awakened by the makeup artist's action of twisting her face. The pain was not just a little, it was simply unbearable. However, Aunt Ke and eldest Aunt Gu were pressing on her shoulders, as if they were afraid that she would stand up and kick the makeup artist over. Just endure it. Every bride will have to go through this. Look, after your face is twisted, your appearance will immediately change. Your entire face will be smooth. Gu Yundong was about to cry. Is that so? She raised her hand to touch it, but Aunt Ke slapped her away. Gu Yundong was extremely aggrieved. Her face was full of collagen, and her skin was as smooth as a peeled egg. Why did she need to have her face twisted like this? It was strange. Back then, when little Aunt got married, she was also watching from the side. But she didn't see Auntie in pain. Why was it so painful when it came to her? Fortunately, there was Madame Yang who doted on her. As she blew on her, she whispered, "Dong Dong, I wanted to save you, but there were too many of them. I couldn't beat them. They didn't even allow me to call your father. They're too evil." As she spoke, she got angry and glared at eldest Aunt Gu a few times. Gu Yundong laughed because of her. Ignoring the pain, she held Madame Yang's hand and said, "It's fine. Mother will blow on it for me. It doesn't hurt." Madame Yang laughed. As Gu Yundong watched, all her emotions turned into reluctance. At this moment, she had a feeling that she was really going to get married today. Looking at Madame Yang, who was still in a daze, Gu Yundong seemed to have returned to the time when she was escaping from the famine. Madame Yang carried her and walked forward step by step with difficulty. It seemed to be yesterday. "Dong Dong, what's wrong? Does it hurt?" Madame Yang suddenly hit the makeup artist's hand in a panic. "Don't do it anymore. My Dong Dong is hurting. She hurts too much. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1209. Makeup gifts. Everyone in the room was shocked by Madame Yang. Eldest Aunt Gu was about to come forward when Gu Yundong hurriedly raised her hand to stop her. She hugged Madame Yang and patted her back gently. She said in a low voice, "Mother, it doesn't hurt. I'm fine. I'm not afraid." Madame Yang slowly calmed down, but she was still worried. She raised her hand and touched her face. The makeup artist was extremely anxious, afraid that Madame Yang would roughen the bride's face again. She wanted to go forward and persuade her. Eldest Aunt Gu waved her hand. She could only sigh and step back. Gu Yundong comforted Madame Yang before holding her hand. She let her sit beside her and asked the makeup artist to put on her makeup again. Perhaps because their palms were connected, Madame Yang's heart also calmed down. She tilted her head and looked at her, saying, "Our Dong Dong is really good looking. She's better looking than anyone else. It's because mother is good looking that she gave birth to such a beautiful daughter like me." Madame Yang smiled until her eyes narrowed. She turned to look at eldest Aunt Gu and said smugly, "Dong Dong said that I'm good looking." Eldest Aunt Gu did not know whether to laugh or cry. Yes, yes, yes. Of course you look good." As she spoke, her heart ached when she looked at Madame Yang. She was originally a good sister-in-law, but because of those bastards from the Gu family, she became like this. Now that Yundong was married, as the biological mother, she was still muddle-headed and did not realize anything. In fact, she couldn't even send her daughter off to get married soberly. She couldn't talk to Yundong on the night before she got married like other mothers, and tell her what to pay attention to when she got married, let alone prepare a dowry for her daughter personally. In the future, when her illness was cured, this matter would probably become her greatest regret. Eldest Aunt Gu thought about it, and could not bear to stay any longer, so she left the room. However, after a while, she came in again with a smile on her face. Guests are here. Old Master Liu's family is here. It was still early. Old Master Liu had a good relationship with Gu Yundong, and came quite quickly. Gu Yundong looked up and saw Lu Yan enter happily. As soon as she entered, her eyes lit up. Yundong is so beautiful today that I can't move my eyes. Sister Lu, you're exaggerating. Gu Yundong let her sit. However, Lu Yan called for a maid behind her and handed over a box. I'm not exaggerating. Everyone's eyes are bright. Here, this is a makeup gift for you. Keep it well. Gu Yundong was stunned. She opened the box and saw a whole set of makeups inside. Before she could say anything, the others in the room widened their eyes. At this moment, in addition to eldest Aunt Gu and the others, there were also a few wives from the village. There were Dong Xiulan and Madame Zhou, who were familiar with Gu Yundong, and there were also people who had come purely to see the bride and had yet to leave. Gu Yundong's room was huge. Even if these people entered, it would not be crowded. At this moment, when they saw the box of makeups, the few of them whispered and exclaimed, "The Liu family is really generous. A full set of makeups should cost at least 20 taels, right? 20 taels? I think it's at least 50 taels. The Liu family is indeed a rich family in our county. If you give me those makeups, I'll go crazy." Madame Zhou wiped her face. These ignorant people were saying this in front of Miss Liu. Wasn't it embarrassing? She frowned and pulled those women out. All right. You've seen the bride. There are so many people here. Don't stay here. Go outside and help. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:10. Everyone is here. After they left, Gu Yundong shook her head and said to Lu Yan, "It's too expensive." Lu Yan sat beside her and said softly, "It's not expensive. If it weren't for the fact that he was afraid that you wouldn't accept it, my father would have prepared a few more sets. This is a token of our family's appreciation. It's to thank you for letting that silly brother of mine not be tricked by the Zhang family. No matter what, you have to accept it." Since she had said so, Gu Yundong could not say anything else and nodded. Only then did Lu Yan smile. She knew about the Zhang family's matters. At this moment, she couldn't help but sigh that fools were blessed. Although her brother wasn't very promising, he had a good friend. She chatted with Gu Yundong for a while before leaving. After a while, Gu Yundong heard the Tao family's voice again. Then Qin Wenzheng and his wife came over. Madame Gu also came to see her, and gave her some makeup gifts. Unexpectedly, just as she left, Tong Shuitao came over to say that young master and young madam of the Peng family had arrived. Gu Yundong was stunned. She had indeed sent an invitation to Peng Zhongfei when she got married. After all, they were friends. She had to give him an invitation. However, she felt that with Peng Zhongfei's attitude of avoiding her, he probably wouldn't come. He would most likely find an excuse to reject her. She did not expect him to really come. Not only did she come, but she also brought Madame Yao with her. Gu Yundong's forehead twitched slightly. She did not like Madame Yao at all. Whenever she thought of her, she would think of Gu Xiener. However, thinking of the devil, Madame Yao came in after a while. At this moment, other than Madame Yang and the makeup artist, everyone else had gone out. Aunt Ku and Gu Dafeng went out to entertain the guests, while Madame Zhou and Dong Xiulan went to Xiaoqing Yuan's house to help. Shen Sitian went to chat with Madame Lu and Madame Gu. Therefore, after Madame Yao entered, the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. Oh, why did this woman look like she had ill intentions? Madame Yao also had a box in her hand, which was naturally not as big as the one Lu Yan had brought. She placed the box on the table and said with a smile, "Congratulations on Sister Yundong's wedding. This is my makeup gift. I hope you like it." The box was opened. There was a pearl necklace. The pearls were quite big. Gu Yundong smiled. Thank you. Madame Yao did not leave. She sat opposite Gu Yundong and looked up at the makeup artist behind her. Can you excuse us for a while? I have some private words to say to Sister Yundong. The makeup artist was stunned. She had been invited over by the Gu family from the county city, so she naturally knew about Madame Yao. Hearing her request, the makeup artist could not help but look down at Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong nodded. Go out and eat something first. You've worked hard today. All right, then call me if you need anything, Miss Gu. The makeup artist tidied up the dressing table slightly and glanced at Madame Yao. With a trace of suspicion in her heart, she walked out of the room. Madame Yao's maidservant stood guard at the door, as if this was their territory. Gu Yundong found it funny. When she faced Madame Yao again, her eyes turned cold. Young Madame Peng, what do you have to say to me? Madame Yao glanced at Madame Yang. She knew that Madame Yang was not smart, so she did not care. In front of her, Madame Yao said bluntly, Miss Gu's wedding today is supposed to be something to be happy about. I'm just a little curious. Why didn't Miss Gu invite your cousin over to the wedding banquet? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:11. Gu Yundong's threat. Madame Yao really hated Gu Yundong. If not for her, Gu Xianer would not have become Peng Zhongfei's concubine. Although Peng Zhongfei didn't like her, it was enough to disgust Madame Yao. Moreover, ever since that incident, Peng Zhongfei had been very impatient with her. Other than bringing her out on necessary occasions to give her some face, he almost never stepped into her room. She was not as useful as concubine Xia in the Peng residence these days. Madame Yao was so angry that she fought with concubine Xia. But deep in her heart, she hated Gu Yundong as much. Initially, she would have suppressed this hatred. After all, it was rare for her husband to bring her out. If she dared to cause trouble, her life would probably be even worse in the future. But today was Gu Yundong's wedding day. She looked extremely beautiful and blissful. Gu Yundong was so blissful that it hurt her eyes. In the end, Madame Yao couldn't suppress the resentment in her heart, and wanted to cut a crack on such a big day. Hence, she deliberately mentioned Gu Xianer, as if she was trying to discuss Gu Yundong. However, Gu Yundong looked at her strangely. Gu Xianer? She's not here anymore. Where can I invite her? Madame Yao smiled and said, So you still know that she's gone? Back then, you were the one who personally sent her to my husband as a concubine. Her life was very difficult. As her sister, you never thought of visiting her when you were living well. Even when she left, you didn't send her off. Zai. Gu Yundong raised his eyebrows. What are you trying to say? If you don't hurry up, someone will come in later. Madame Yao was a little angry, but she quickly smiled. There's nothing to say. I'm just a little curious. Does your father know about this? Does he know that his biological niece was sent to another man's bed by his biological daughter? Does he know that his biological niece lost her life in this unfamiliar place? Does he know that no one collected his biological niece's corpse? Saying all this on Gu Yundong's wedding day was clearly to cause trouble. Seeing that she did not look good, Madame Yao immediately felt better. By the way, I heard that your father just became an elementary scholar. Do you think it will affect your father's career if news of this spreads? Madame Yang could not understand these words, but she could feel Madame Yao's malice. She immediately stepped up and stood in front of Gu Yundong. She frowned and said, What are you talking about? Our Dongdong is very busy and doesn't have time to talk with you. If you're done, leave quickly. Otherwise, I won't be polite. Madame Yao glanced at her and sneered. She ignored her and only looked at Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong pulled Madame Yang to the side and sat her down. After comforting her, she looked at Madame Yao. What do you plan to do? What do you think? Gu Yundong smiled and said, Do you want my father to think that I'm a ruthless daughter who doesn't care about her cousin? Or do you want to ruin my father's reputation? Madame Yao, you can try, but I promise that if you do this today, you will definitely be kicked out of the Peng family tomorrow and be abandoned. You will live a miserable life for the rest of your life. Madame Yao suddenly tightened her grip, wishing she could pounce on her and bite her. You make it sound like the Prung family will listen to you. Don't you think too highly of yourself? Even if my husband is on good terms with you, the old master and old madam of the Prung family won't allow him to divorce his wife and become enemies with my family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:12. The groom is here. As soon as Madame Yao finished speaking, Tong Shuetao's voice came from outside the door. Miss, the prefecture magistrate's wife, the prefecture magistrate's son, and Miss Nia are all here. Madame Yao froze. What did she just hear? The wife of the prefecture magistrate? The son of the prefecture magistrate? She looked at Gu Yundong in shock. Gu Yundong smiled and said, "Did you hear that? Do you still think that the Prung family will not divorce you? Or do you think that your maternal family will dare to bring you back after you are divorced?" Madame Yao suddenly stood up and looked at Gu Yundong in disbelief. "That's impossible. Do you know the prefecture magistrate's wife? Why, she was just a little girl who had escaped from the famine. Even if she had some means and could earn some money, how could she know these influential people? Moreover, the prefecture magistrate's wife came to attend her wedding in person?" Gu Yundong smiled. "You have been in the residence for too long." She had been busy fighting with concubine Xia all day long, and did not even know that the world outside had changed. How sad. Madame Yao did not believe it. She wanted to take a look personally. However, before she could turn around, Tong Shuetao had already led Madame Dai and Ye Shuang in. When Madame Yao's maidservant saw them, she did not dare to stop them and shrank to the side. As soon as Madame Dai entered, she held Gu Yundong's hand affectionately and said, I'm late. It's all Wenhuo's fault. He stayed in the county yesterday. When he woke up in the morning, he insisted on going to the wonton shop in the east of the city to eat wontons. He said that he had eaten once last time, and even wanted to drag us along. Gu Yundong smiled and said, It's not too late. It's not the auspicious time yet. I already told you to stay in my house yesterday, but you had to stay in the county city. How inconvenient. Don't. It's too troublesome for a bunch of people like us to stay in your house. It's fine to stay in an inn. Last time, I went to your house and walked around Yongfu village. I hadn't seen much of the county city yet, so I could take this time to stroll around. There were more than 3 people when Madame Dai and the others went out. There were also more than 10 maidservants, old women, guards, and coachmen. Nie Shuang nodded. That's right. The county city is quite fun. Madame Dai hurriedly brought her gifts over. She had given the bride a pair of jade bracelets. One look and everybody could tell that they were of very good quality. They must be very expensive. Nie Shuang had given the bride a hairpin. According to her, she had bought it when she went back to the capital last time. She had liked it at first glance and felt that it was especially compatible with Gu Yundong. She had brought it back and was waiting to use it today. She also brought a pair of earrings that Miss Bao had given her. Miss Bao had something to do at home, so she did not attend her marriage. The room was filled with laughter. It was obvious that they were very close. Madame Yao, who had already retreated to a corner, felt her entire body turn cold. She had seen Madame Dai before. It was definitely Madame Dai. There was also Miss Nie. In the prefecture capital's Nie residence, she was someone the Prung family did not dare to reach. They actually had such a good relationship with Gu Yundong? How was that possible? If Gu Yundong's backer was them, then the Prung family might really abandon her. Gu Yundong took the time to glance at Madame Yao. Madame Yao's expression changed drastically, and she suddenly lowered her head. Gu Yundong knew that she would not dare to cause trouble again. Madame Dai was a meticulous person. She also looked at Madame Yao, but she did not say anything. Instead, she spoke patiently to Madame Yang. At this moment, there was the commotion of the groom coming to pick up the bride. The groom is here. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:13. Blocking the door with a splash, many people rushed in. Eldest Aunt Gu asked Gu Yundong to quickly cover her head. She sat by the bed and waited quietly. Madame Dai, Nie Shuang, and the others also walked out of the room. Madame Yao also took advantage of the chaos to go out. She didn't dare to have any other thoughts. She went out to look for Peng Zhongfei, but she didn't expect to hear that Peng Zhongfei had gone to the Xiao family. She immediately felt choked in her heart, and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. She wanted to leave the Gu family, but the door was already closed. There was a group of people blocking the door. There were 3 small stools with 3 people sitting on them. Yinshu, Yunka, and Yuanji sat facing the door like vanguards. Behind them stood the Zhang siblings, Niu Dan and Lu Dan, as well as Lu Yi, Qin Anning, Lu Hongxiao, and the other children. The people who came to watch the show were stunned. They did not expect that the people blocking the door were all children. This made Gu Xiaoxi, Qin Shu, Nieshuang, Shen Sitian, and the others, who had originally planned to stop them, retreat to the back. The corners of their mouths twitched as they looked at this group of children. The onlookers laughed out loud. The entire courtyard was bustling with activity. Madame Dai watched from afar and could not help but say to Aunt Ku, "Can the children block it?" With those children around, the people outside won't dare to push the door open. Madame Dai raised her eyebrows. That was true. As she was thinking, a loud shout came from outside the door. "The groom is here to pick up the bride. Open the door." Upon hearing this energetic voice, everybody knew that it was Lu Wei. Yinshu, who was sitting in the middle of the stools, stood up from the small stool. With his hands on his hips, he shouted outside the door, "If you want to marry my sister, you have to pass my tests first." Yes, 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 pass the tests first. The children's tender voices followed. Lu Wei, who was outside the door, laughed. He moved closer to the nervous Xiao Yuan and said, "Don't worry. I've already asked Lu Yi to inquire about the tests from Yinshu. It's just poetry and poking and such. You have Brother Dai and me by your side. We can help you through." With that, he shouted at the door, "All right, then set the questions." "All right, listen up." Yinshu patted his new clothes and coughed lightly. He raised his chin slightly and made a very handsome posture for himself before saying, "May I ask why a shop assistant's son has never called him father?" Everyone was speechless. "Huh." Xiao Yuan slowly turned his head and looked at Lu Wei, who was eager to answer but turned stiff because of the unexpected question. "Poetry and poking?" Lu Wei slowly closed his chin and laughed dryly. "I was deceived by that brat Lu Yi. That spy. Hee hee hee." Dai Wenhua couldn't help but roll his eyes and say, "Think of the answer first." Lu Wei nodded. "Yes, yes, yes. Think about the answer first." Then he shouted at Xiao Wen, Xiao Wu, Xiao Shuang, Xiao Quan, the 2 Tao brothers, Peng Zhongfei, and a large group of villagers who had come to watch the show. Everyone helped think about it. Not only them, but even the people behind the door were lowering their heads to think of the answer. What was going on? Why didn't his son call him father? "I got it." Lu Wei shouted from outside the door. "Because the shop assistant doesn't treat his son well. His son hates him and refuses to call him father. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 12-14, Brainstorm. No. Yinshu shook his head. Next. Dai Wenhua frowned and guessed. Could it be because this child was adopted by the shop assistant? He hasn't had the time to change his words? That's not right either. Peng Zhongfei immediately shouted, "I know. It must be because this shop assistant was cheated on by his wife. This son belongs to old Wang next door." Everyone was speechless. Xiao Yuan, Lu Wei, Dai Wenhua, and the others silently turned to look at Peng Zhongfei. They had the urge to beat him up. Lu Wei even reached out and pointed at him. "Are you stupid? How could a child like him come up with such a question?" Peng Zhongfei was unconvinced. "Do you dare to say that you didn't have such thoughts just now?" Anyway, this was the first answer that came to his mind after he heard the question. Lu Wei and the others fell silent. To be honest, they also felt that this was the standard answer. However, Yinshu snorted again. "That's not right." None of them were right. Everyone could only lower their heads and start thinking hard. Xiao Yuan's fingers moved slightly, and he suddenly smiled. Lu Wei's eyes were sharp. He immediately asked, "Did you think of it?" "Yes." Xiao Qingyuan nodded and took a step forward. He didn't have a loud voice like Lu Wei, but when he spoke, his voice was powerful. Because the shop assistant is a female, her son naturally can't call her father. Everyone was stunned for a moment before clapping. That's right, why didn't they think of it? Wasn't there a few female workers in Gu Yundong's milk tea shop? Even Madame Dai and Ye Shuang had enlightened expressions. To think that they were the owners of the milk tea shop. They did not think of such a simple answer. Yinshu was slightly satisfied. Yes, you got the first question right. The people outside the gate instantly became excited. Very good, very good. The first battle had been won, and everything would definitely be smooth sailing in the future. Everyone was full of confidence as they waited for the second question. The second question was set by Yuanji. May I ask, Daniel looks ordinary and there's nothing special about him, but he wouldn't blink for hours. How does he do it? Everyone was speechless. Where did you guys find these strange questions? How are you going to answer them? Lu Wei racked his brains for a moment and said, I understand. Daniel has an eye disease. That's not right. Dai Wenhua said. Daniel is holding his eyelids with small wooden sticks. That's not right either. Peng Zhongfei said. Daniel died with his eyes open. Everyone was speechless. What did you say? Do you dare to say it again? Lu Wei turned around and dragged Peng Zhongfei away. This is a wedding, and you're talking about cheating and dying. You probably have a grudge against bride and bridegroom, right? Peng Zhongfei felt wronged. All of you are sanctimonious. Could it be that you don't think so? I don't believe it. After Lu Wei dealt with Peng Zhongfei, he returned very quickly. He looked at Xiao Qingyuan and asked, Have you thought of it? Lu Wei felt that Gu Yundong must have come up with these strange questions. She was the only one who seemed abnormal. And Xiao Qingyuan had been with Gu Yundong for so long. Surely he could understand her? As expected, Xiao Qingyuan narrowed his eyes and relaxed. Because Daniel has his eyes closed. Xiao Qingyuan referred to the previous question, and felt that it couldn't be deduced with common sense. He quickly thought of it. As expected, Yuanzi's voice came from inside. Yes, you're right. The people outside the door instantly cheered. That's great. There was only one question left. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:15. Something's not right. The last one was naturally from Kiki. The little girl stood up from the stool and put her hands behind her back, like a little adult. She said in a childish voice, May I ask why wooden fish can't be eaten? Huh. What kind of question was that? Dai Wenhua frowned. Isn't wooden fish inedible to begin with? Lu Wei waved his hand. Don't be hasty. Their questions are all strange. There must be other meanings. Let's find the answer word by word. The others nodded and began to think hard. Yinshu and Yuanji, who were behind the door, were also stunned for a moment. They looked at each other. Yinshu said softly, Why did Kiki tell them the answer? I think she got the question wrong. She should be asking them what fish they can't eat. The two of them. What should they do now? They looked at Kiki. She looked very confident and happy. After a while, she even skipped over to Yinshu. Second brother, I'm so happy. I can be a female teacher for once. Wasn't the question I asked just now especially good? Yenshi's face instantly turned serious. He patted the little girl's head and nodded firmly. Yes, Kiki is especially good. That question just now was very good. Yuanji also nodded. Look, there's no movement outside. Everyone is stumped by you. The little girl was even happier. She patted her small chest. That's right. Your questions are too simple. Sure enough, you still have to rely on me. The two brothers nodded vigorously. After the little girl turned her head, they whispered. What should we do? If cousin-in-law can't answer, my cousin won't be able to get married. It's fine. My brother-in-law will definitely think of a way. That being said, there was no sound coming from outside. They were very anxious. Lu Wei, who was at the door, was also anxious. He asked Xiao Qingyuan in a low voice, Have you thought of it? Xiao Qingyuan frowned. I don't think this question is right. Damn, none of the 3 questions they came up with were right? Xiao Yuan still felt that something was wrong. It was getting late, and he really couldn't find the direction. After a pause, he could only carry out Plan B. He gave Dai Wenhua a look. The latter immediately walked to the side and looked at the high wall in front of him. Although the wall was quite high, it was not a problem for him. Therefore, he jumped up and stepped on the wall to climb up. On the other side of the door, Lu Wei also stuck out his butt and said through the gap in the door, "Kiki, we really can't think of anything. How about this? How about we give you red packets?" Kiki was about to shake her head. They had already figured out the answers to the questions, so they had to think of her questions. However, when the villagers in the courtyard heard about the red packet, they seemed to be on steroids and shouted, "Hurry, hurry, hurry. If you can't figure out the answer, give us the red packets." Seeing that Kiki was unhappy, Yunshu quickly rushed forward and whispered to her, "Your questions are too difficult. Let's let them compensate us with red packets. If it's too late, we'll miss the auspicious time." The little girl pouted and hesitated for a long time before nodding. "All right." Lu Wei immediately became happy. He reached out and took red packets from the cloth bag he carried with him and stuffed them through the gap of the door one by one. A group of children ran to the door and snatched them. Even some thick-skinned adults squeezed over and instantly pushed the children to the side. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:16. Yundong, are you willing to marry me? When Xiao Yuan heard the commotion, he frowned and looked up at the wall. Dai Wenhua also had a cloth bag hanging from his waist. He grabbed a handful of red packets from it and scattered them in the courtyard. "Let's grab the red packets here." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone saw the rain of red packets falling. Compared to snatching red packets from under the door, of course, there were more scattered in the courtyard. The crowd dispersed. The adults had gone to the courtyard. Even the children had gone. Lu Wei chuckled and said to Kiki and the others at the door, "Don't worry, I'm giving you big red packets. Those are not even as big as yours. Hurry up and put them away." Kiki's eyes lit up. She hurriedly nodded and placed the red packets into her small bag. Then she waved her small hand domineeringly and said to her brother, "All right, open the door. Let them in." Yunshu and Yuanji were speechless. "Aren't you too easily bribed?" However, she was not the only one who was bribed. Soon, 2 adults ran over and removed the bolt. Then they carried the 3 children and stood to the side. As soon as the door opened, the people outside instantly rushed in. Yunshu and Yuanji were dumbfounded. Could it be like this? Xiao Yuan walked in elegantly in a red wedding suit. His usually indifferent face was filled with joy, and there was a smile at the corners of his eyes. As soon as he entered, he reached out and rubbed the children's heads. He took out 3 big red packets from his sleeve and placed them in their hands. After the 3 children accepted the red packets, Xiao Yuan strode towards the new house. The sound of firecrackers could be heard outside the door. Along the way someone shouted, "The groom is here. Hurry up, the groom is here." Gu Yundong, who had been sitting in the room and listening to the commotion outside, suddenly felt her heart beating rapidly. Her fingers subconsciously tightened around the wedding dress. Gu Dafeng quickly reached out to pull her and said softly, "Calm down." She couldn't calm down. Xiao Yuan entered and saw the person sitting on the edge of the bed. She was wearing a bright red wedding dress and had a red veil over her head. She sat there obediently like a painting. Xiao Yuan's throat instantly became dry. He swallowed hard before slowly taking a step forward. Many people in the room were talking. There were Madame Yang's eldest Aunt Gus, the bridesmaids, and others who followed in and asked for red packets. Xiao Yuan did not seem to hear these voices. He walked towards Gu Yundong step by step. When he reached the front, he suddenly squatted down. The room instantly fell silent as everyone turned to look at them. After a while, Xiao Yuan asked in a low voice, "Yundong, I'm here to marry you today because I love you. In the future, I'll definitely treat you wholeheartedly and have no second thoughts. You'll be the only one in my life. No matter what happens in the future, I'll share blessings and difficulties with you. I won't leave you. From now on, you'll be in charge of the family. You'll control the family assets. When we have children, we'll educate them together. In that case, are you willing to marry me? Everyone looked at him in shock. This matter was already set in stone. But Xiao Yuan still made such an oath. Everyone present was shocked. Gu Yundong did not expect him to say such words. Her eyes turned hot. After a while, she nodded slowly. Xiao Yuan's nervousness was instantly appeased. The smile on his face widened before he stood up. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:17. Entering the bridal chamber, Gu Yundong was helped up by the bridesmaid and Tong Shuitao and left the house. When the group arrived at the central room, Gu Dajiang and Madame Yang were already sitting in the middle. Gu Yundong couldn't see their expressions, but she knew that Gu Dajiang must be filled with reluctance. Yundong. Gu Dajiang stood up and walked in front of her. He looked at his daughter and instantly choked. In the end, he still couldn't bear to part with her. Even though the place she was going to was just next door, it was still different. Gu Dafeng patted him. Gu Dajiang took a deep breath and gritted his teeth. From now on, you're the daughter-in-law of the Xiao family. You're Qing Yuan's wife. If you suffer, come back. I'll stand up for you. Gu Dafeng tugged at him. What are you talking about? Gu Dajiang paused and took another breath before continuing. Qing Yuan is a good person. He's quite good. He's good at both liberal and martial arts and is decisive in his actions. Father hopes that the two of you will be harmonious in the future. You will love and respect each other. You have to be considerate when you encounter things. You'll grow old together, understand? Gu Yundong's eyes stung even more. After a while, she hummed softly. Father, I know. Gu Dajiang looked at Xiao Yuan. I'll give my daughter to you. Father, don't worry. I'll take good care of Yundong and not let her suffer. I'll dote on her and love her. Gu Dajiang exhaled and looked at Madame Yang. Madame Yang held Gu Yundong's hand tightly, as if she finally realized that Yundong was getting married. Tears streamed down her face. Dong, don't go. Gu Dajiang held back his reluctance and helped Madame Yang back slightly. Then he waved his hand. All right, don't miss the auspicious time. The bridesmaid hurriedly led Gu Yundong out and urged the bridal sedan chair to get ready. Gu Yundong walked a few steps and turned around. Hearing Madame Yang's cries, she could not move her feet. The bridesmaid began to urge her a second time, and finally helped her out of the central room. Gu Dajiang and Madame Yang chased after them for a few steps. The firecrackers outside were even louder, and the guests' voices were lively. Seeing Gu Yundong get into the bridal sedan, Gu Dajiang finally couldn't help but turn around and return to his room. Madame Yang was stunned and hurriedly followed. The moment she pushed open the door, she saw Gu Dajiang wiping his eyes with a handkerchief. His eyes were red. Seeing Madame Yang enter, he forced a smile and said, I'm fine. The wind was a little strong just now and there was sand in my eyes. Madame Yang didn't know if she believed him or not. She took the handkerchief from his hand and wiped it for him. Gu Yundong sat in the sedan chair with her head slightly lowered, but her mind kept replaying her parents' sobbing voices. Like Gu Xiaoxi's wedding, the sedan chair walked around the village and finally stopped in front of the Xiao family's house. The bridesmaid helped the bride out of the sedan chair, stepped over the brazier, and walked on the red felt. Finally, she stood on the right side of the wedding hall. Xiao Yuan stood on the left, holding the red silk in his hand. He and Gu Yundong held it on both sides. When no one was paying attention, Xiao Yuan gently squeezed Gu Yundong's hand. Gu Yundong wanted to glare at him, but there was a red veil in front of her face. Suddenly, she heard the host's voice. One bow to heaven and earth. The bridesmaid supported her and guided her to turn around. Second bow to the parents. Xiao Yuan's parents weren't around either, so they continued to bow outside. Third bow to each other. Send them to the bridal chamber. As soon as the host finished speaking, Xiao Yuan couldn't stop smiling. His palms that were holding the red silk were covered in sweat. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:18. Consummation wine. After entering the new room, Yundong was led to the wedding bed. She heard the shouts of the crowd. The veil is to be removed. The groom quickly removed the veil. A scale was immediately stuffed into Xiaoqing Yuan's hand. He grabbed the scale and was extremely nervous. The bridesmaids' congratulations and urging sounded in his ears. Someone pushed him. Xiaoqing Yuan suddenly took a step forward and stood in front of Yundong. He slowly took a deep breath and placed the scale under her veil. After a while he gently pulled it away. Yundong looked up. At that moment, Xiaoqing Yuan felt that his breathing had stopped. Someone beside him exclaimed, "Wow, the bride is so beautiful." Yes, she was so beautiful. Xiaoqing Yuan had never seen such a beautiful Yundong. He felt that his throat was extremely dry and itchy. When the people standing in the room saw this, they could not help but cover their mouths and laugh. The bridesmaid even pulled him and asked him to sit with Yundong. Xiaoqing Yuan looked at her intently until there was a glass of wine in his hand. Yundong laughed. Why did he become so silly? This is consummation wine, the bridesmaid said with a smile. Drink this consummation wine and wish the bride and groom a long and happy marriage. Xiaoqing Yuan suddenly came back to his senses and looked at the wine in his glass. The corners of his lips curled up. Yundong's arm circled around his. The two of them looked up and finished the wine in their glasses. All right. May the bride and groom live happily ever after. Unity of heart and a life of harmony. The blessings came one after another. There were so many people in the room that it was impossible to tell who had said it. Dai Wenhuo was smart. The cloth bag hanging on his waist was still there. He would give a red packet to anyone who said anything. For a moment, the atmosphere in the room became even more enthusiastic. Xiaoqing Yuan secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to say a few words to Yundong, he did not expect Lu Wei to suddenly pull him up. All right. They've already drunk the cross-cupped wine. Let's go outside and drink. Xiaoqing Yuan only had time to glance at Yundong before he was pulled out by Lu Wei. As the two houses were close and the people invited knew each other, the courtyard was filled with tables, be it the Gu family or the Xiao family. Almost all the villagers of Yongfu village were here. Everyone was already eating at the table. Xiaoqing Yuan was brought to the main table by Lu Wei, who forced him to eat 2 mouthfuls of food before toasting him. He had already planned this. When Xiaoxi got married, because Chang Yaya was pregnant, it was not good to get him too drunk. However, it was different now. Yundong was healthy and had high martial arts skills. It did not matter even if Xiaoqing Yuan was drunk. Yundong would definitely be able to handle it. Lu Wei expressed that he was fearless. He waved at Xiaowen. Bring me a jar of wine. All right. Xiaowen turned around excitedly. After a while, he and Xiaowu each brought back a jar of wine. Lu Wei chuckled at Xiaoqing Yuan. Come, fill your young master's cup. Xiaowen took a bowl and filled it up. Lu Wei stood in front of Xiaoqing Yuan, who looked at him coldly. Lu Wei was not afraid. Today is your big day. It's fine if you didn't give me face in the past, but if you don't drink today, it's equivalent to not giving your wife face. Isn't that right, everyone? With someone taking the lead, the others cheered on the spot. That's right. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:19. He didn't dare to try. Xiaoqing Yuan glanced at the bowl of wine and looked at Lu Wei meaningfully. You won't regret it? I won't regret it. Lu Wei shook his head. Although he was anxious, it didn't matter. It was worth it even if Xiaoqing Yuan got even with him later. Xiaoqing Yuan nodded, took the bowl of wine and drank it. Good. The crowd cheered. Lu Wei laughed out loud and got Xiaowen to fill it up again. Dai Wenhua, who was at the side, looked at the bowl of wine thoughtfully. He paused and suddenly sniffed the jar of wine when Xiaowen was not paying attention. Xiaowen was shocked and immediately took 2 steps back. Then he looked at Dai Wenhua with a dry smile and pretended that nothing had happened. Dai Wenhua smiled. Yes, it smelled like alcohol, but it was very faint. There were other smells mixed in. He thought of Xiaoqing Yuan's identity as a medical expert and immediately understood. After he drank the second bowl of wine, Dai Wenhua leaned toward Xiao Qingyuan under Xiao Wen's apprehensive gaze and whispered, "You can't do that. This isn't wine, right?" Xiao Qingyuan glanced at him from the corner of his eye. He didn't feel guilty or flustered at all after being exposed. He also said softly, "I rarely drink. My alcohol tolerance is too low, and I get drunk easily. If I get drunk, wouldn't it be bad if I spout nonsense and say something I shouldn't say?" Dai Wenhua was speechless. This was a threat. That's right. Xiao Qingyuan knew many secrets, such as the Tao family's matter, the Zhang family's matter, and his and Qin Wenzheng's motive for entering the deep mountains. If these were to be spread, the consequences would be unimaginable. All their efforts would be in vain. Dai Wenhua couldn't help but grind his teeth. He didn't believe that Xiao Qingyuan's alcohol tolerance was bad, but he didn't dare to take chances. After taking a deep breath, Dai Wenhua smiled again. "That's good. You have the foresight. Thank you for the compliment." Xiao Qingyuan nodded and drank the third bowl of wine. Dai Wenhua found it strange that this thing could make people blush after drinking it. It was amazing. Lu Wei didn't notice anything wrong at all. Xiao Wu was pouring wine for the other guests, so his jar of wine was naturally real. There were a lot of people and it was noisy. In the bridal chamber, Yundong could hear Lu Wei's loud voice. She was holding a bowl of boiled eggs with brown sugar. Dong Xiulan had brought it to her just now. There were only her, Dong Xiulan, and Tong Shuitao in the room. Yundong ate very slowly. There were too many things on her head, and they were very heavy. She wanted to take them down, but Dong Xiulan stopped her. "Take your time. Eat some rice to fill your stomach after you're done. I don't know when the commotion outside will end." "Thank you, Auntie." "What are you thanking me for?" Dong Xiulan looked at her lovingly. "It's my greatest wish to see you and Qingyuan get married and grow old hand in hand." As she spoke, she was a little sad. "In the past, I was always worried that Qingyuan would be alone for the rest of his life. He would grow old alone, and not even have a companion. Until he met you. You didn't care about his bad reputation or his unlikable personality. You accompanied him to open a shop and build a house. I was so happy to see the two of you getting together." She patted Yundong's hand. "Don't worry. I know Qingyuan. He's a good child. You stayed by his side when he had nothing. No matter how promising he is in the future, he will dote on you and love you. He won't let you down. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 12:20. Feed me. Yundong finished the last of her sugar water and smiled. "I know, Auntie. It's precisely because he's very, very good that I agreed to marry him." Yes, Xiao Qingyuan was very, very good. He had given her everything. He could put his life in her hands. It was actually not easy to meet such a person in this life. After the brown sugar egg was finished and the meal was over, Dong Xiulan tidied everything up and asked Tong Shuitao to help Yundong sit on the bed again. She carried the bowl and chopsticks out. As soon as she went out, she saw that there was still a commotion over there. After Xiao Qingyuan walked around toasting, he looked a little delirious. Lu Wei went to help him up, and Xiao Qingyuan almost pressed him to the ground. The group of people hurriedly helped him up. Seeing this, Dong Xiulan hurriedly squeezed over. All right. Don't you see how drunk he is? Enough. Today is a big day. Are you really not going to let him consummate his wedding?" That was what Lu Wei thought. Just as he was about to retort, he suddenly heard Xiao Quan say softly from behind, "Young Master Lu, the medical book says that if people drink too much, they will be poisoned." Lu Wei was shocked. "Are you serious?" "Yes." Xiao Quan nodded seriously and sincerely. "If our young master is poisoned, then..." Yundong's furious face flashed across Lu Wei's mind. He shuddered violently and hurriedly said, Yes. After all, it's your wedding night. We're good brothers. We can't let him have a bad time, right?" After that, Lu Wei and Dai Wenhua helped Xiao Qingyuan back to his chamber. Yundong looked at the drunk Xiao Qingyuan in surprise. Before she looked at him, Lu Wei quickly said, "He drank a little too much. Take care of him. Well, leave first. We won't disturb you." With that, he quickly left with Dai Wenhua. Dai Wenhua looked at him in amusement. Why do I feel that you're more afraid of Gu Yundong? Lu Wei looked like he was ignorant. If I offended Xiaoqing Yuan at most he would beat me up. If I offend Gu Yundong, she will plot against me. Dai Wenhuo was enlightened. So you dare to force Xiaoqing Yuan to drink, but you don't dare to disturb Gu Yundong's bridal chamber? It was good that everyone knew this in their hearts. There was no need to say it out loud, right? Lu Wei looked back and ran away quickly. In the chamber, Gu Yundong had just supported Xiaoqing Yuan when she saw him slowly sit up straight and hold her hand. Gu Yundong was stunned. She pursed her lips and smiled. I was wondering how you got drunk by Lu Wei. So you were lying to him. He wanted to ruin my wedding night. How can I let him have his way? Xiaoqing Yuan lowered his head, grabbed her hand and kissed it. He asked in a low voice, have you eaten? Yes, Auntie Dong just sent some food over. As for you, you didn't eat much, right? I had no choice but to drink, Xiaoqing Yuan said as he took off the hair accessory on her head and placed it on the table. Gu Yundong finally felt much more relaxed. She rubbed her neck slightly and handed the pastries on the table to Xiaoqing Yuan. Eat some first. Feed me. Gu Yundong blushed. However, she fed him the pastries in the end. Xiaoqing Yuan looked at her as he ate. It's delicious. Then eat more. Gu Yundong felt uncomfortable under his gaze. She got up and went to get another pastry plate. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:21. Wedding night. Unexpectedly, just as he stood up, his hand was grabbed and his body was gently pulled back. Gu Yundong was caught off guard and took 2 steps back before sitting on Xiaoqing Yuan. A pair of hands appeared at her waist. Before Gu Yundong could react, she was pressed onto the bed. She could hear his hot and rapid breathing. But I want to eat you. Gu Yundong turned her head slightly, and a shadow fell on top of her. She felt a warm touch on her lips. Gu Yundong did not know when Xiaoqing Yuan stopped. In a daze, she seemed to hear him call for water. Then she fell asleep again. She seemed to have woken up several times. Every time, she was in his arms and he hugged her tightly. At dawn, Xiaoqing Yuan opened his eyes. Even though he did not sleep much that night, when he woke up, he was still in high spirits and extremely satisfied. Looking at his wife sleeping soundly in his arms, Xiaoqing Yuan couldn't suppress the smile on his face. He couldn't help but hug her tighter, until she moaned softly before he let go. He hugged her for a while more before planting a kiss on her forehead. Then, he slowly let go of her and got out of bed silently. The sky was already bright outside. The entire courtyard of the Xiao family was quiet. Last night, before everyone left, they must have cleaned up. The tables were very neatly placed. Xiaoqing Yuan put on a shirt and went straight to the kitchen. There was no one in the Xiao family today. Whether it was Xiao Wen and the others or Auntie Lu, they all went to the Gu family to rest. There were only him and Gu Yundong in the entire Xiao house. This was what Xiaoqing Yuan had specially instructed. It was the first day of their marriage, and he did not want anyone to disturb them. There were still leftovers from yesterday in the kitchen. Xiaoqing Yuan's culinary skills were not good, but he had also learned from Auntie Lu recently. One could get too occupied when cooking and burn half the kitchen down. But what about using a casserole? As a medicinal herb merchant and a doctor, Xiaoqing Yuan knew how to brew medicine. Therefore, he directly placed the casserole over the charcoal fire, and it was immediately convenient. On the first day of their marriage, he wanted to cook a pot of porridge for his wife. In the past, she had always made delicious food for him. Now he wanted her to enjoy it. Xiaoqing Yuan lit the fire, washed the rice, and added water. When the clay pot began to bubble, his tense body finally relaxed. The porridge was mixed with mushrooms, lean meat, yams, and other things. Xiaoqing Yuan felt that it was quite fragrant and took a bite. Only then did he bring a big porcelain bowl over and pour the porridge in. Then, she placed it on the tray and carefully carried it into the room. Gu Yundong was still sleeping. She was so tired that she was curled up in the blanket. Xiaoqing Yuan walked to the edge of the bed, took off his shoes and lay down. He hugged her gently from behind and looked at her face quietly, as if he could never get enough of her. Now he had a wife and family. When he woke up this morning and saw her lying beside him, Xiaoqing Yuan felt unprecedented satisfaction. The body in his arms moved. Seeing that it was about time and the porridge was already cool, Xiaoqing Yuan lowered his head and kissed her. He said softly, "Get up and eat something first. Your stomach is starting to growl, okay?" Gu Yundong opened her eyes slightly, still in a daze. Xiaoqing Yuan couldn't help but kiss her again. "I made porridge. Do you want to try it? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1222. Warm two-person world. Gu Yundong was shocked and immediately sobered up. She blinked in a daze, as if she wanted to confirm if the person in front of him was serious. Xiaoqing Yuan was tempted and kissed her again. "Are you getting up?" Gu Yundong nodded. Just as she was about to get up, she realized that she was only wearing her lingerie. She immediately blushed and slid back under the blanket. The crazy thing that happened last night suddenly flashed across her mind. For a moment, she didn't know how to face him. The soreness in her body belatedly surged, making her glare at Xiaoqing Yuan unhappily. She had clearly said stop, but he still refused. He was simply a beast. However, Xiaoqing Yuan felt as if she was winking at him. He was already a ball of fire when he woke up in the morning, so how could he restrain himself now? He immediately lowered the curtain and pounced on her. Gu Yundong was speechless. When the two of them got up again, the pot of porridge was completely cold. Gu Yundong lay motionless on the bed, and did not want to talk to Xiaoqing Yuan. The latter touched his nose and knew that he was in the wrong. He said softly, "We'll heat it up, all right?" "Humph." Xiaoqing Yuan carried the pot of porridge to the kitchen again. Gu Yundong lay on his back and looked at the bed curtains. She still felt a little surreal. She was really married to the man she loved. From now on, she would live with him and face all the suffering and happiness. Although this person was a little beastly in some aspects, Gu Yundong was still very happy. Xiaoqing Yuan brought the pot of porridge back in a hurry. After it was heated up, it was unknown if it was because his skills were not good, but the porridge was a little burnt. Xiaoqing Yuan frowned and sighed. "Forget it. I'll go find Auntie Lu." He was about to leave when Gu Yundong quickly stopped him. "No need. It smells good. Give me a bowl." Xiaoqing Yuan looked conflicted. It smelled burnt. How was it good? However, he still obediently scooped a bowlful and placed it in front of her. Gu Yundong sat in front of the table. Her hands were still weak. Xiaoqing Yuan immediately blew on the porridge and fed her. "How is it?" "It tastes all right." Gu Yundong took a sip. It was actually quite delicious. Although it smelled burnt, as long as the bottom layer was not eaten, the other parts were quite fragrant. Xiaoqing Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. He sat closer to her and fed her bit by bit with a spoon. There were only the two of them in the entire Xiao family. Everything was very quiet and carefree. After lunch, it was already past noon. The two of them leaned against each other under the grape trellis and read for a while. Xiaoqing Yuan was holding a medical book, while Gu Yundong was holding a storybook. Occasionally, the voices of the villagers could be heard from next door. Now the area beside the Xiao family was no longer empty. On the right was the Zhang family, and on the left was a family who had built a house not long ago. At this moment, the woman in this family was scolding her son, who was playing everywhere. Gu Yundong found it interesting and could not help but narrow her eyes. Xiaoqing Yuan lowered his eyes and kissed the corner of her mouth. The two of them wandered for the entire afternoon. At night, Gu Yundong cooked noodles. Xiaoqing Yuan was especially satisfied. At night, he was full of energy and wanted to pull Gu Yundong along. However, on account of her first taste of human affairs and the fact that she was returning home tomorrow, he decided to rest early. The next morning, Gu Yundong was indeed much more energetic. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1223. We're going to the capital. To the Xiao family and the Gu family were only a few steps apart, so after the two of them got up and tidied up, they knocked on the Gu family's door not long after. Gu Dajiang and Madame Yang had been waiting for a long time. When they saw Gu Yundong, their eyes couldn't help but sting. Although she had only been married for a day, It was still very uncomfortable to suddenly have one less person in the family. The children, in particular, pulled her along and started chatting. Gu Yundong was dragged away by her younger siblings while Xiaoqing Yuan chatted with his father-in-law and the rest. The atmosphere was rather harmonious. Madame Dai, Nie Shuang, and the others had left Fengkai County a day earlier. Lu Wei and the others had also returned to the county. The rest were all family. During lunch, Qin Shu came over. He had gone to the county city to buy things yesterday. Previously, he had been a spy for Qin Wenzheng and had received some rewards. He had money in his hands. He had to make a trip back to Qinnan village after buying the gifts. He would leave today. When passing by Yongfu village, he came to Gu Yundong and Xiaoqing Yuan to bid farewell. Qin Shu was very reluctant. I'm going to the capital after I'm done with the village chief and the others. From now on, I'll work for Mr. Qin. I don't know when I'll see you guys again. Gu Yundong smiled. We should be able to meet soon. Huh. Qin Shu did not understand. Gu Yundong said, We'll be going to the capital in a few days. Really? Qin Shu was elated. Gu Yundong nodded, but the others looked reluctant. They had already told everyone about their decision to go to the capital. Everyone knew that he was going to the capital to find Xiaoqing Yuan's biological parents. This was something that had to be done, so no one stopped them. However, everybody did not know when they would return. Qin Shu received the news he wanted and left happily. There was a carriage waiting at the entrance of the village. The coachman was Qin Wenzheng's man who specially sent him back. After Gu Yundong sent him off, she returned to prepare for her trip to the capital. The main reason was that there were many things to do at home, especially in the industry. For this reason, Gu Yundong specially called the few people in charge for a meeting. The location was Xiaoqing Yuan's house. The workshop was now on the right track, and Gu Yundong had given Tong in full authority. In addition to him, there were 4 other junior managers. One of them was Zhang Hu. From white sugar to canned fruits to sweets, they each had their own areas of responsibility. Everything was in order. Then there was the orchard. Zhou and his son, Gaoxing, were in charge of the orchard. Gaoxing's original name was Zhao Xingyong, and the father and son were now taking care of the orchard. Now that the orchard was huge, Zhou had already given Zhao Xingyong a portion of his power. His son slowly learned how to manage it. Immediately after that was the county shop, which was managed by Chen Jinkai. Finally, there were the people in charge of acquisition and delivery, Big Qian, Chen Jinbao, and Tong Ping. The 11 of them sat in the study, feeling a little excited and nervous. They had never experienced such a scene before. Everyone was gathered together. For a meeting? Gu Yundong sat in front of the desk and told them about her trip to the capital. Everyone below was stunned. Boss is going to the capital? How long will you be gone for? Gu Yundong naturally would not say that she was going to look for Xiaoqing Yuan's parents. I'm not sure how long I'll be gone. Previously, the eldest daughter of the Nie family bought a shop in the capital and planned to bring the milk tea to the capital. I want to take a look and open the shop. Besides, I also want to see the environment in the capital. Perhaps I can open a Gus in the capital. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1224. Meeting opening Gus in the capital? Everyone was overjoyed. Excitement flashed across their faces. Our Gus is arriving in the capital so quickly? That's great. It's the capital. By then Gus' reputation will become more and more famous. Boss, what can we do for you? That's right. Boss, are we going to the capital too? Gu Yundong waved her hand to calm them down. We're still preparing for the opening of the shop in the capital. How can it be so easy to open a shop? However, the matters in the county can't be relaxed just because I'm not around. That's why I summoned you here today to discuss your mission after I go to the capital. Everyone fell silent and immediately sat up straight. Gu Yundong looked at Tong and, I'll leave the workshop to you. If there's anything you can't resolve, you can look for the village chief. In Yongfu village, Uncle Chen's words carry a lot of weight. If you really can't resolve the problem, get someone to send a letter to my father. He will have a way. Tongan nodded solemnly. Yes, Mississippi. he said in an exceptionally serious tone. Tongan will definitely not let Miss down. Gu Yundong then said to the 4 junior managers, each of you is responsible for a job, so you have a huge responsibility. For food producers, the most important thing is to be clean. I don't want the workshop to be dirty and messy, and I don't want to follow in the footsteps of the Zhang family. Boss, don't worry. We won't do anything heartless. Gu Yundong nodded and then looked at Zhou and his son. I'll leave the orchard to you. There are many fruit trees planted this year. You can recruit more people when picking the fruits. Don't let the fruits rot in the ground. All right, boss. Gu Yundong did not know much about the orchard, so she wouldn't point fingers. She trusted Zhou. Next was the matter in the county city's Gus shop. She looked at Chen Jinkai. The business of the shop is getting better and better now, but there are no lack of blind people looking for trouble. If it can be resolved, it can be resolved. If it can't be resolved, you can ask Uncle Lu for help. Yes, boss. Finally, it was time for purchase and delivery. Gu Yundong looked at Big Qian. You're already familiar with those fruit farmers, and you're also flexible. I'm not worried about this. I'm just worried that some people will raise the price on the spot when they see that business is good. Although you've already signed the contract, you can't guarantee that you'll be 100% assured. You should have a bottom line in your heart. If they cross the line, you'd rather not buy those fruits. Big Qian agreed. Don't worry, boss. We have our own orchard now. Those people will suffer if they destroy the contract. Oh, pay attention. That's good. Finally, it's time for delivery. Gu Yundong said to Chen Jinbao and Tongping. The products produced by our Gu family have always been scarce and eye-catching. You're quite familiar with the route. But just because it has been peaceful doesn't mean that it'll be fine later. Be careful on the way. The two of them immediately nodded. In fact, they had heard some rumors before that someone was recruiting people to intercept the goods on the way. However, they had also hired people from the escort agency to follow them. There wouldn't be any major problems for the time being. I'm almost done. You're all working for the Gu family. Even though everyone is in charge of different areas, no matter what, a problem on one side will affect other aspects. I hope you can help each other and work together to solve the problem. Yes, boss. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief and left after giving some more instructions. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1225. Her mother is too cute. On the other side, Xiaoqi Yuan had already finished talking to the shopkeeper of the medicinal shop. He had also hired some people to be in charge of communicating with the farmers to buy medicine, plant medicine, concoct medicinal herbs, and run the pharmacy. Before he went to the capital, he had to make arrangements clearly. After settling the business matters, Gu Yundong and Xiaoqi Yuan went to the county city. Qin Wenzheng had already left and returned to the capital. There was still a teacher in the school who continued to educate Yunshu and the others. Gu Yundong and Lu Wei went to the Lu residence. When Lu Wei saw them, he rushed forward excitedly and said, "Let me tell you something." Seeing how mysterious he was, Gu Yundong could not help but roll her eyes. "Tell me." Peng Zongfei's wife has been sent to a temple outside the city to cultivate for half a year. Gu Yundong was surprised. "You mean Madame Yao? Why?" Lu Wei had a look of, "You're pretending to be innocent" on his face. "Isn't it all because of you?" Gu Yundong frowned. "Because of her?" The last time she interacted with Madame Yao was on the day of her wedding. As expected, Lu Wei couldn't wait to speak. "On the day of your wedding, did that Madame Yao go to look for you? She even threatened you?" Xiaoqi Yuan raised his eyebrows. "Madame Yao went to threaten you? Why didn't he know about this?" Gu Yundong waved her hand. "It's all right. She's just talking. She doesn't dare to respond to my words." As she spoke, she asked Lu Wei, "Who said that she threatened me?" "Oh, your mother." Gu Yundong, "That's right. Other than her and Madame Yao, Madame Yang was also in the room." Although her mother was ignorant, she could see clearly and knew that Madame Yao's gaze and tone were not good back then. She might not understand the meaning of Madame Yao's words, but she could remember her words and tell others in detail. At that time, Madame Yao did not take Madame Yang seriously at all. Who knew that she would fall into her hands? After Madame Yang sent Gu Yundong off to get married, she was listless. It was only when she saw Madame Yao hurriedly find Peng Zhongfei and was about to leave the Gu family that she suddenly remembered Madame Yao's hostile expression towards Gu Yundong in the new room. She rushed over, looking like she wanted to settle scores with Madame Yao. Peng Zhongfei happened to be nearby and instantly heard most of Madame Yang's words. He was so angry that he was about to explode. Alright, he knew he shouldn't have brought Madame Yao out of the door. This incompetent woman only knew how to drag him down. It was one thing to offend Gu Yundong once, but she actually wanted to find trouble with her on her wedding day. Was she tired of living? Peng Zhongfei did not flare up on the spot. After returning home, he started to settle scores with Madame Yao. Lu Wei laughed. We didn't know about this at first, but concubine Xiao of the Peng family was so eager to see the world in chaos that she exposed it. Now we all know, ha 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 ha. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She had not done anything yet. Madame Yao was courting death. Her mother had never mentioned this to her. Her mother was really too cute. Gu Yundong suddenly wanted to go back and see Madame Yang, so after telling the Lu family that she was going to the capital in a few days, she and Xiaoqing Yuan could not wait to return to Yongfu village. They were leaving in a few days. She wanted to go back and spend time with her family. The carriage stopped at the entrance of the Gu residence. Gu Yundong had just alighted from the carriage when she suddenly heard a sound coming from inside. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1226. Gu Xiaoxi's way out. Gu Yundong was shocked. He exchanged glances with Xiaoqing Yuan and hurried in. The voice beside her ear started to become clearer. It was Gu Xiaoxi's voice. The scholar was so angry that he fell back on the spot. He pointed at the woman and said, "You're simply twisting logic. I want to talk to you again. A good man doesn't fight with a woman." After saying that, the scholar hurriedly wanted to leave. Unexpectedly, the woman stretched out her leg. The scholar wasn't careful and tripped on the spot. He fell and was stunned. His face turned red and he cried. Ha 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 ha. A burst of laughter rang out. Gu Yundong had already walked to the door of the central room and could see the situation inside clearly. Her uncle stood in the middle of the central room and was telling a story vividly. He was beaming with joy and his hands and feet were waving. As for Chang Yaya, Madame Yang, eldest aunt, Bian Han, Gu Dajiang, little Kiki, and the others, they surrounded him and applauded. Gu Yundong turned her head helplessly and looked at Xiaoqing Yuan. I thought something had happened. Gu Dajiang faced the door and was the first to see them. He quickly called them in. You're back. Did everything go smoothly? Everything went well. Gu Yundong walked in and sat beside Madame Yang, holding her hand. Madame Yang was stunned for a moment before she grabbed her hand and smiled until her eyes narrowed. Gu Yundong asked, "What are you doing?" "Your uncle is telling a story," Chang Yaya said. Today, when the baby moved, he started talking to the child. As he talked, it became storytelling. She did not expect things to develop like this. Initially, she was the only one listening. Later, the entire family came to listen, and all of them listened with relish. It made her not know whether to laugh or cry. Gu Yundong was surprised. Uncle is so good? Gu Xiaoxi chuckled. On the other hand, Chang Yaya said with a speechless expression, "You don't know this, but ever since he heard a story in the prefectural city, he fell in love with it. The few times he went to the county city and passed by the tea house, he would stop and stand outside to listen. Once, he was so engrossed in listening that he almost missed the time when the city gate closed." Gu Yundong really did not know about this. She did not expect her uncle to like this. Xiaoqing Yuan, who was standing behind her, suddenly said, "If little uncle is interested, you can go to the tea house to be a storyteller." When I heard little uncle tell the story just now, it was actually not inferior to those storytellers. Xiaoqing Yuan was right. When Gu Xiaoxi told the story, he was simply engrossed in it. His tone was cadenced, and it sounded very picturesque. Of course, he was slightly inferior to the experienced storytellers in the prefectural city, But he was as good as the tea house storytellers in the county city. The only thing he was lacking in was probably his lack of confidence. Gu Xiaoxi was only so open in front of his family. If they were in a tea house, he would probably feel restrained and uncomfortable. Furthermore, there would occasionally be unexpected situations in the tea house, and Gu Xiaoxi didn't have the ability to deal with them. But these could be trained. When Gu Xiaoxi heard that he was going to be a storyteller, he immediately waved his hand and shook his head. No. With my lousy skills, I can only tell stories to my child. How can I have the ability to go to a tea house to tell stories? I don't want to ruin other people's business when the time comes. No. I'll just farm at home. He didn't dare. He was timid. Usually, even if he went to listen to stories, he would stand at the door and listen. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:27. Just do it. However, Gu Yundong's eyes lit up when she heard that. Sure. It's rare for younger uncle to like something. Why can't he give it a try? Although being a storyteller can't compare to doing business by himself or focusing on craftsmanship, he can get a basic salary. Occasionally, if the story is good, he can even be rewarded when he meets generous customers. Most importantly, little uncle liked it. Uncle, you're not confident now, but you'll be fine after training for a while. Moreover, you can read and speak loudly. Look, everyone surrounded you just now and was attracted by you. This means that you're very good, right? The others nodded repeatedly. Kiki clapped until her hands turned red. It's great. It's just slightly worse than my elder sister's. It's better than everybody else's. The young lady liked it the most when her elder sister told her bedtime stories in the past. She still remembered it now. In the future, when the younger brother in her aunt's stomach was born, she would tell him. Gu Dajang agreed. It's indeed not bad. It's already very impressive to be able to memorize everything after hearing it once. Chang Yaya also thought it was a good idea. And every time you tell a story, your eyes shine. It was especially charming. Gu Xiaoxi felt a little embarrassed. Is it really that good? Gu Yundong nodded. Yes. If you're worried that you won't be able to speak in front of those guests, you can find a place to experiment first. She lowered her eyes and thought for a while. Suddenly, she clapped her hands. How about this? We can try it in our village first. Uncle knows almost all the villagers in Yongfu village. When the time comes, we can organize everyone to go to the grain sunning field in the evening. Tell everyone a story. Tell them what you heard in the county city. Anyway, it's free. Everyone will definitely like to hear it. Xiao Qingyuan also said, the weather isn't too cold now, and everyone is willing to go out. Uncle shouldn't be afraid in front of people he knows, right? Gu Xiaoxi thought for a moment. Then there's really nothing to be afraid of. He was even eager to give it a try. Gu Dafeng stood up. Let's go and find the village chief now. We'll start tonight. Gu Xiaoxi let out a ha. Then he was pulled away by Gu Dafeng. The people in the room looked at each other, and then laughed. Chang Yaya was actually quite happy. Although she felt that Gu Xiaoxi's farming was quite good, he was too tired. Every day, she would watch him return home after a day of work, but the results were average. Her heart ached. In particular, Gu Xiaoxi's sister and brother's lives were getting better and better. This was actually quite stimulating. He also wanted to work hard to catch up. He didn't want to drag them down. He also wanted to live a good life for his unborn child. However, he did not want to completely rely on eldest sister and second brother. He wanted to rely on his own ability. However, no matter how he thought about it, he only knew how to farm. These days, Chang Yaya would sometimes see him reveal a very confused expression. Now that he had found a job that he liked, that was the most gratifying thing for her. Not long after, Gu Dafeng returned. Gu Xiaoxi's face was filled with excitement. The village chief has agreed. He is very supportive. He said that everyone is living a good life now. Some people have nothing to do at night and start to quarrel with others. Recently, the village chief has gone to several families to stop the fight. He's exhausted. Now that they can listen to books, these people can finally stop. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:28. Success. Everyone laughed when they heard that. In the evening, the drying field was indeed filled with people. Most of them brought stools over, and some even brought food. It looked even more lively than a banquet. All of them were extremely excited. I've never heard a storyteller telling a story before. This time, I finally have a chance to listen. That's right. When I went to the county previously, I was extremely curious when I saw the customers in the tea house cheering. However, I didn't have money in my pocket and didn't dare to enter. I didn't even dare to get close. I went to listen to it once. That feeling. TSK, it's very beautiful. It's just that tea is too expensive. I could only hide outside and listen. When Gu Yundong arrived, there were almost no seats left. Fortunately, she was Gu Xiaoxi's family and had special privileges. The seats in the front row had already been reserved for them. Gu Yundong and Xiaoqing Yuan quickly walked through the crowd to the front. As soon as they sat down, Gu Xiaoxi walked up with an excited and uneasy expression. Gu Yundong clenched her fists and cheered him on. When Gu Xiaoxi saw this, he instantly felt confident. He swept his gaze across the crowd below. Very good. They were all familiar faces. He was not afraid anymore. There was already a table in front of him. Gu Xiaoxi imitated the storyteller in the tea house and slammed the wooden tablet. The buzzing crowd instantly quietened down. Everyone's gaze was focused on Gu Xiaoxi. Gu Xiaoxi was inexperienced and did not know anything about opening lines. When everyone looked at him, he went straight to the point. In the distant sea, there was a girl called Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu had been well protected since he was young. Her family was harmonious, and her parents doted on her. Until one day, as Gu Yundong listened, she felt that something was wrong. This story sounded familiar. She looked at Kiki, who was sitting in Gu Dajiang's arms and listening with interest. She carried the little girl over. Huh. The little girl's body suddenly rose into the air. She was stunned and quickly turned her head. Seeing that her big sister was carrying her, she was immediately relieved. Gu Yundong held her small hand and asked in a low voice, "Did you tell this story to Uncle?" The little girl nodded. That's right. Gu Yundong could not help but pinch her little face and shake her head in laughter. This was the bedtime story she told the little girl. It was almost a big adaptation of The Mermaid's Tale. It was mainly because Kiki was a glutton and she looked obedient and pleasant. Gu Yundong was worried that the little girl would be tricked by others with just a little food. So she deliberately made up a story to tell her not to be easily deceived by strangers. She did not expect her uncle to tell such a story today. Actually, this was also good. Now that the conditions in Yongfu village were good, countless people outside wanted to marry the girls in the village. It would be fine if they only liked the girls because of the good conditions, but those people who had ill intentions and directly schemed against other people's assets would use despicable methods to deceive the girls. That would be terrible. Xiaoyu's story was about how Xiaoyu was ignorant of the world and was deceived by a superficial person. In the end, she did not listen to her parents and insisted on being with that person. Not only did she get herself killed, but she also lost her family. The story was a little tragic, but it inexplicably resonated with many people. After Gu Xiaoxi finished speaking, the crowd lingered for a long time. Everyone was busy criticizing the inhumane scum in the story. No one noticed that there were one or two girls in the crowd who lowered their heads slightly, looking a little guilty. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:29. Departure to the capital. Later, Gu Yundong heard that a young man from another village had secretly interacted with a girl from Yongfu village. That girl was almost deceived by that young man. After listening to Gu Xiaoxi's story that night, the young lady went back and thought for a long time before telling her parents. The girl's parents immediately got someone to inquire about the young man's family. Only then did they know that not only was the young man's family poor, but his parents were also sluggards. He had 2 brothers and a sister-in-law at home. All the work was done by that sister-in-law. When the young man's family heard that the girls in Yongfu village were all rich, They tidied up the young man and let him seduce the girl. After marrying her, the girl's family would be able to support the young man's family. When the young lady heard this, she was almost scared silly. No wonder the young man refused to explain the situation at home, or let his parents come over to propose marriage. He only kept coaxing her. The young lady was tricked until she could not find her bearings, and was almost done. Gu Yundong sighed when she heard that. Chen Liang even came to look for Gu Xiaoxi, and asked her to tell everybody a few more such stories to warn the villagers. He especially told everyone that there was no such thing as a pie falling from the sky. Gu Xiaoxi immediately became nervous when this mission came. He could tell stories, but he couldn't write stories. He went to look for Gu Dajiang. Gu Dajiang was passionate about writing, but what he wrote was too serious. Furthermore, they were all major matters related to the country. They were far from the scope of a story. In the end, Gu Yundong rubbed her face and helped Gu Xiaoxi write a few adapted stories. However, she wasn't a professional either. It was just that she had seen a lot of things. It was fine if she made up a few, but she couldn't do too many. Hence, she suggested to Gu Xiaoxi, "Uncle, you can actually observe the things around you more and change what really happened around everyone. If you magnify the good or bad aspects, it will be a fascinating story." Gu Xiaoxi was deep in thought. To Gu Yundong's surprise, the next day, Gu Xiaoxi came over with 2 stories. Gu Yundong took a look. Wasn't this what had happened to Gu Xiaoxi and Chang Yaya? They had been adapted and divided into 2 separate stories. But one was a story about a wife who loved a young master from a rich family, and wanted to climb up the social ladder by framing her man. The other was a woman who had no one to rely on. She was deceived by a friend with ill intentions, and was almost killed. This was their personal experience. Gu Yundong could not help but look at Gu Xiaoxi. The latter scratched his head. "I've discussed it with Yaya. We think it's okay." "As long as you think it's okay." Perhaps because he had experienced it personally, Gu Xiaoxi was especially engrossed in telling these 2 stories. The response from the villagers that day was simply enthusiastic. Gu Xiaoxi became more and more enthusiastic about storytelling. Not only that, but he also collected the events around him and edited them into storybooks. 5 days later, Gu Yundong brought Gu Xiaoxi to Jinxiu restaurant in the county. The Jinxiu restaurant did not have a storyteller, but it was fine to add one at the last minute. Anyway, Gu Xiaoxi was there to train his courage. It was free. After that, Gu Yundong did not care anymore. She and Xiaoqing Yuan finally decided to set off to the capital to find his background. This time, the 2 of them traveled light. Gu Yundong brought Tang Shuitao, while Xiaoqing Yuan brought Xiaowen. The 4 of them bade farewell to the Gu family, and quickly left Yongfu village. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1230. 3 days to arrive. Gu Yundong returned to the prefectural city first. Nie Shuang bought a shop in the capital and was about to open it. They still had to discuss some details. On the prefecture magistrate's side, it had been exactly half a year since the vaccination. Xiaoqing Yuan had to bring the bill and the number of people who had participated in the vaccination to the capital. He also had to report the situation in the Xuanhe prefecture. There was also the shop in the prefecture capital. There was no problem with Gus. The shopkeepers and waiters were all familiar with it. If they encountered any difficulties, it would be easy to find someone to help. As for the milk tea shop, she had arranged for 2 female employees. Lan Huar had just been diagnosed with pregnancy not long ago, so Gu Yundong let her rest at home. After giving birth, it was up to them to decide if she wanted to continue working. Su Qing and Zhuangzi were also married. Not long after they got married, the 2 of them were very happy. The 2 of them did not have to worry. With Madame Dai and Nie Shuang around, they would not suffer any grievances. Gu Yundong went back after taking a look. After giving instructions in the prefectural city, the 4 of them left the Xuanhe prefecture. To go to the capital, they had to pass through Wanqing prefecture first. Coincidentally, Gu Yundong had not been to Wanqing prefecture since she came back last year. She did not know how Uncle Yes grocery store was doing. Although they had exchanged letters previously, they could not say too much. There were 4 people on one carriage and 2 horses. If the carriage was not comfortable, they could ride horses. It was quite comfortable. Yundong sat in the carriage and ate. She leaned half of her body against Xiaoxi and looked at the scenery outside the window. When she fled to the Xuanhe prefecture, this place was still desolate. Now it was completely different. The new emperor had indeed done many things when he ascended the throne. "Miss, there's a river over there. Let's rest here and eat something." Tong Shuetao's voice came from outside. Yundong sat up straight and her body stiffened. Xiaoqing held her back and rubbed it hard. "Are you feeling better?" Yundong nodded and stretched her back. "You really can't slack off. If you become lazy, you won't be able to sit in the carriage for a few days. All the bones in your body seem to be stiff." She got out of the carriage and took a deep breath. She instantly felt refreshed. Tong Shuetao had already taken a small pot from the back of the carriage to get water. Xiaowen was also picking firewood nearby. Yundong looked around. "Where are we now? How long until we reach Wenzheng prefecture?" Xiaoqing tied her sleeve and replied, "At this speed, we will reach Wenzheng prefecture in about 3 days. "That's good. The carriage makes me uncomfortable all over." Xiaoqing smiled and said, "We'll set off later on horseback. When we reach Wenzheng prefecture, we can take a boat to the capital. It's faster to travel by water and it'll be more comfortable to take a big ship." That was true. At the very least, she would not be stiffened. If she wanted to stand up, she could only get out of the carriage. As she spoke, Tong Shuetao had already taken out the ingredients and was preparing to set up the small stove. "Miss, do we still have any hot sauce? I think we've finished the jar from before." "Yes, I'll go get it." Yundong quickly turned around and entered the carriage. She looked through it and found out that they actually finished the few jars she had brought along. She had made this spicy sauce. It was filled with oil, and it was especially fragrant with porridge and rice. The 4 of them would open one jar every few days to eat. Now that the last bottle was gone, she could only take out 2 bottles from her space. Just as she was about to take them down, she suddenly heard a commotion. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible.